All right, we're going to do it live. We're going to do it live right now. CoCoTALK episode 44 is going live in 3, 2.
Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
Oh, Canada.
This is CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer, with your host, Mr. Gameplay Goodness himself, Stevie Stroh. All right, everybody, and welcome to CoCoTALK episode 44, where every week we gather some of the most talented and best-looking people on the internet.
And Steve, too. Unfortunately, none of them could make it.
Yes, and this week, let's address who we have who is not here all the time. But we have got a special appearance, everybody. Author of Bouncy Ball, Lee Patterson's in the house. Hey, Lee, thanks for joining us this week.
Bounce on.
All right, and I'm loving that hat. So hopefully we'll get to hear about some of the updates on the Bouncy Ball project. Hey, David Ladd's calling in. Speaking of some of the best-looking men on the internet, if there was a calendar of the dudes of retro, David would be the cover boy. So also with us, who's not here all the time, but Mikey's back. How are you, Mikey?
Hey, I'm pretty good. Okay, I'm not muted.
That's always nice to know. Also, recurring, occasional guest of the show, Alan Huffman's with us. How you doing there, Alan?
Hi there. I had to find my hat.
And what a fine hat it is, sir. And some of our regulars, our segment producers, our engineers, our coordinators, the cast, the crew, the magic, the makers of the magic are with us every single week. Mr. Mark Overholser is with us once again. How are you today, Mark?
I'm doing fine.
And he has gotten his house arrest bracelet has been cut off. He's been able to leave the garage. So Ron Delvaux is with us from inside in the air conditioning. Ron Delvaux is with us.
How you doing?
Doing good. From the Great White North, Curtis Boyle is with us once again. Thank you for being here, Curtis.
Hello, everyone.
CoCoMan himself, Jason Reighard, is here. Hey, Jason, how are you?
Hey, everybody.
All right, and joining us, the one, the only, the Lord of the Floppy, the Duke of Digital Data Distribution, David Ladd himself is with us. David, how are you?
Hello, everyone.
From down under, we've got Nick Marentes. Good day, Nick.
Hi, everyone. From
Yay! Yay! Nick's back.
Hey, Ken is here. Your brother's here, Jason, so expect some trolling.
As always.
From the Great White North, the producer of the CoCoTALK theme song and intro video, this multi-talented, good-looking man himself, Mr. Bruce Moore is with us. Hey, Bruce, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. Glad to be here.
All right, and last but certainly not least, the living legend, the arcade game aficionado, Mr. Hardware, Mr. Software, Mr. All-Around, from sunny Southern California, Steve Bjork's in the house. Steve, how are you today?
Doing pretty good. Can only be here for a little while, but we're going to have a great time. We
are going to have a great time. So now that we've gotten the formal formalities out of the way, and in the live chat, we've got 18 people watching us live right now. So let's real high say hi to Norlander, and to James Jones, and to Tim Franklin, and Tom C., and Nick Marota, and James Jones, and Ken Make It. Thank you all for being here. We have a brand new segment that we actually, I forgot to do last week, but that's the great thing about this show. And so this segment is called Why Did They Do That? And for this week, it's going to be called Why Did Tandy Do That? And we're going to pick a topic of something that's happened that we could maybe look back at today and say, you know, maybe could have been different, but whatever. But before we do that, because this is a professional show, we've got a fancy intro graphic and little musical ditty here. So fasten your seatbelt, folks, because this is what professional streaming is all about right here.
Tell me why did Tandy do that?
Whoa! Was that awesome? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? We got to hear that one again. Listen to this. It's worth hearing.
Tell me why did Tandy do that?
Ladies and gentlemen, that was from Alan Huffman, no less, the jingle producer extraordinaire. So we have two distinguished experts in their field are going to talk to us about a particular thing that Tandy has done. We're going to start with Mr. Steve Bjork, and you want to go ahead and tell us today, Steve, what we're going to deliberate on?
Yeah, basically, when I was up on the face group a couple weeks ago, somebody had posted, like, what's going on here? I've got a 64K color computer too. I type in print mem and it only says about 24K. Now, a lot of folks getting back into the CoCo, this is a little puzzling. Why, hey, look, I got a PC, and when it says I've got 4 gigabytes, it tells me I got 4 gigabytes. Mm-hmm. Why can't this machine tell me or use or whatever? I got 64K in here. Why can't I use all of it? And so we thought we'd go around and talk about just how the CoCo uses memory and why do they do things like that back then.
All right. Great topic.
All right. Well, you got to remember the CoCo is technically an 8 almost slash 16-bit processor, and that basically tells you how much memory it was designed to access. 16 bits of addressing only gives you 64K. Hey, CoCo's got 64K in there. Why? Well, it should be able to access all of it. Well, it is accessing all of it, but part of it is also being used by your ROMs. You know how you can turn on the computer and instantly comes up and it's got BASIC in there, it can do these things? Mm-hmm. Well, those ROMs also take space too. And in the design of the CoCo, half the memory was allocated for RAM, and the other half was allocated for ROM and talking to bits of hardware and stuff like that. So what happens is the CoCo can only access, this is the CoCo 1 and 2, can only access up to 32K of RAM typically when you're in BASIC. Okay, well that explains why you could only have a maximum of 32K. Why can't you have all that 32K? Well, there are some things in the computer that take memory too. Things like your video displays, buffers. Matter of fact, like for example, if you're in disk extended color basic, you've got one about a memory that comes free. But if you got disk color extended basic, you actually have less memory because disk basic needs some space for talking to the hard drive.
Okay.
So, and like that. Now, in the case of the Color Computer 3, it's got 128K. How can you access more than 64K if that's all the processor can do? Well, the processor in the CoCo is still only accessing 64K of total address space, but it's got a memory management unit inside there too, and that also famous Gimme. The Gimme gives us graphic modes and like that, but it also expands the ability for the color computer to talk to more than 64K. Now that I've totally lost everybody, it basically, there was a little bit of hardware that was added to the CoCo 3, so it could access the entire 128 or 512K of memory. And since disk color extended basic was never really technically designed to understand more than 64K addressing and doesn't understand this MMU, it takes some special programs or OS 9 to access more than the 64K of address space.
Yeah. I want to mention one thing on the CoCo 3. The basic in CoCo 3 actually does let you access some of the memory past your normal 32K of RAM that you get. The high-res print buffers, the high-res screen itself is actually from outside your 32K. That doesn't take room away from your 32K, which on the CoCo 1 and 2 it does. Like if you do a P Mode 4, that takes 6,144 bytes out of the memory that you actually have in your 32K space. On the CoCo 3, the higher res modes actually come from outside that space. So technically, you actually are accessing more than 32 in the CoCo 3.
And that's not because that's your use. Technically, in that section there, you're not using the basic that was created by Microsoft back in 1980. What you're using is what the fine folks at Microware did to improve with the super extended color basic. Whoa.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep. And just a shout out, James Jones, who used to work at Microware, is actually in our chat. So,
hey, James.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah, James said that was a good explanation.
very good.
So I had a board that I put on my Model 1, CoCo 1, that gave me 128K, and it came with a software program to access that 128K as a RAM disk, which was interesting back in 83 or 4.
Yeah, there's a couple of those boards. There was like a Bubble Memory one that Color Computer Magazine had those 128K. Micro RGS out of Montreal actually made, I think, a 256 and even a 512K board for the CoCo 1 and 2. Usually accesses a hard drive or a print buffer or something like that. There was a couple of programs, BAS 264, I think, was one that actually let you access 64K in BASIC, because you could swap between the two 32K chunks of RAM and have like two programs running at once, or you could have, data statements in one and then call, the main program in the other type thing. So you could actually get more, but that's not stock from Tandy.
Yeah, that's the when you turn on your computer, you're not going to see any of that. And that's the thing, is we're working with a language that was initially written back in 1980, 79 actually was when they started. So, as computers progressed, like for example, when IBM came out with their first PC, it could access a whopping 1 megabytes of RAM. And they thought nobody was ever going to need more than 1 meg of RAM on their personal computer.
Actually, even less. Yeah. They limited it to 640K, and 384K was for ROMs for cards.
Exactly.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. That was Intel's idea, was that a meg was going to be more than enough for anybody. And we sure learned quickly how limited it was. If anybody worked on a PC, you were constantly trying to do tricks with high mem to get your games to run.
Yeah.
But it's been a battle between what designers design and what you can access. And the color computer is an example of what happened back in those days, is that, we use half of it for the ROM and half of it for the RAM, and then you got to have buffers and display screens and stuff like that, and that limits what you can do.
Yeah, I should mention there was one other program that came out that would basically copy, like if you kick in 64K RAM mode, instead of having your two banks of 32 that you're swapping in and out, it would actually put both RAM banks and map the ROMs out. What it would do is copy the ROMs into RAM, patch them a little bit. And because the disk basic ROM, the extended basic ROM, the color basic ROM only takes 24K, it would enable an extra 8K for basic. So then I think they used to call it BAS 40K or something. You could actually have a basic program that had access to 40K of RAM, mixture of screens and everything else too. That was a fairly common thing to do.
Wasn't there a trick with the 64K Dragon computers that would do that on startup? I seem to remember reading that if you fired up a 64K Dragon and typed exec, it would move things around to do a similar trick with their basic?
Yeah, I think it was built into the Dragon, but it wasn't built into the Tandy one.
It's built into
which is too bad.
Why didn't they do that?
Exactly.
I'll tell you one thing. For reliability, they did not like the ROMs being copied into RAM on the CoCo 1 and 2. If you had a program that start poking somewhere, or if you had some machine language that was crashing, it would write over the RAM, where in the case of ROM, you can't write over it and make the system unreliable. But in the case of the CoCo 3, that's exactly what they did, is that the ROMs got patched via RAM.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, that was due to a licensing thing, because Microsoft didn't want anything to do with making the new version of the ROM. And Microware had to patch it in such a way that they had to take the original stock Microsoft ROMs. Legally, they couldn't modify the ROM itself. And then add a ROM that would actually patch, copy it into RAM and then patch it in to extend the BASIC for super extend the BASIC.
While that's true that Tandy didn't want to do it, I mean, or I should say Microsoft didn't want to do it because they had found the beauty of selling MS-DOS to the world and was making a lot of money that way, that they didn't want to put the resources into patching their old BASIC. The price they wanted to charge was outrageous, and microware was much cheaper.
Right. So let me ask a dumb question about ROM, how the computer processes ROM, or does. So yeah, let me put it to you this way. BASIC is in a ROM, and between color BASIC and extended color BASIC, we were looking at about 8K worth of code, right? And in those two.
616 if you're combining both. 8K for
okay.
8 and 8.
So was that information, quote unquote, processed directly in the ROM itself? Was ROM addressable like RAM is, or does the ROM run inside of RAM?
No,
in the way this, yeah, it just pulls it straight in. The same way that pulls a cartridge straight in. It's just in the address space for the processor to access.
So ROM is literally code that's being processed from that chip.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
just as if it was pulling in from the RAM chips.
It's just like the RAM, except when you power it off, it doesn't go away. It's permanent. Whereas the RAM,
okay. But so because we lose about 8K, and I thought that 8K we lost was because BASIC downloaded itself into RAM to be processed.
No, the 8K that you lose when you boot it up is basically your graphics screen, your text screen, because it defaults to pClear 4 for a P-Mode 4 screen. So that's 6K gone right there. BASIC has its own internal variables, which takes up the first 400 hex bytes, 1024 bytes, and disk BASIC takes another couple chunks away for like sector buffers and file buffers and all that kind of stuff too, which drops it a bit more, but it has nothing to do with the size of the ROM.
Oh, okay. So
yeah, and there was something we lost with the CoCo 3. Since it fired up, copied the ROMs into RAM and patched them, it used those addresses. So any of the old Color Computer 1 and 2 programs that would use the memory under the ROMs for their own storage, it would bank the ROMs out, put stuff into that RAM, and then bank the ROMs back in. Those programs wouldn't work on a Color Computer 3 because they would now be trashing the area where BASIC was running out of.
How annoying. Yeah. Unless you diddled around with which MMU blocks you were doing on each one, because you could kind of hide it that way.
Your programs have to be made CoCo 3
and
aware.
Once again, when you start talking about the MMU, you're talking about this is hardware with the CoCo 3, not on the 1 and 2.
Right.
So,
did anybody ever make a memory management chip for the 1 and 2?
Not, very coarse ones, not like the MMU on the CoCo 3. I mean, anything that did the 32K or 64K bank switching, the 120K boards, 256K boards, 512K boards, all had a very, very primitive one, but not as programmable as the MMU on the CoCo 3.
Yeah. So,
while we're on the subject of the MMU, how that works is basically think of looking at the front wall of your house from the inside. You want to look at the real world. The real world is much bigger than what you have access from the house. You have windows and doors. Well, what you can do is tell the CoCo, the MMU, that this door has access to this much of the real world, and this other window has access to this much of the world. And of course, all these windows and doors are all 8K as far as you're concerned inside the CoCo, 8K of memory. But it can look at anywhere in the real world. And that's how it works, is you only see 64K of RAM from the CoCo side inside the house, but it's addressing the entire 512 or 128 that exists in the real world.
Yeah, you can specify up to 8K blocks. You can mix and match. You can map the same one in multiple times if you want for some reason. And there's also 2 DAT register switches, so there's actually 2 sets of 8, so you can instantly switch between the two, which is what OS 9 does. It keeps its system mode, all the kernel and the actual main operating system is in DAT task 0, and your user programs and graph driver are all in DAT task 1, and whenever you task switch or multitask between programs, that's what it's doing. It's hopping between them.
Real quick, I just happened to notice something here. It looks like Ron Delvaux has found another good use for a MC10 box. He's using it to hold up that monitor behind him there. So,
darn, that was going to be a secret.
Not only do they make door stops, but they also make good monitor stands.
Jim Gary always says it's really versatile. I guess this proves him right.
Hey, Ron,
what?
Ron, your question about have they made a MMU for the CoCo 1 or 2? Yeah, Jim Brain has one on his webpage. It's called the CoCoMan Junior.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah, is that actually for sale yet, or is that just kind of announced?
I don't know. It's announced, and he has a proto. So,
because I think he was actually making it compatible with the CoCo 3, so we could actually make a Novus 9 level 2 kind of for the.
He has a separate one for that. He has the CoCoMan for the CoCo 3. The CoCoMan Juniors for the 1 and 2.
No, I meant he was actually duplicating the CoCo 3's MMU hardware on the CoCo 1 and 2. So it was compatible software-wise.
Right, yeah, I believe it is. So,
yeah. I want to get back to the original question. Go ahead, David.
No, I was going to say also as far as MMUs on CoCo 1 and 2's, Tormod has also made a card that's is similar to the CoCo 3's MMU for memory management as well on the Dragons CoCo 1s and 2s.
Cool.
And by the way, thanks for being with us, David. I know you've been sick for like over a week now, so thanks for dragging yourself out to make the show today. I want to get back to the original question. You're new to the CoCo. You just bought a CoCo off of eBay. It says it has 64K. One of the first confusing things you see is you do a print mem, and it's telling you you've got roughly 24K, which is roughly a third of what you thought you paid for. I think you answered one of the questions, is that BASIC can only see half of that. So BASIC is only going to recognize 32K, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and then part of that 32K now is reserved because the graphics screen has been reserved. That's 6K right there. So your P-Mode 4 screen. Okay, Steve Bjork says he has to go. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Thanks. Good. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Steve.
Bye.
So your graphics page takes up 6K right there, and then you've got another 2K that's kind of reserved for variables and buffers and disk space and things like that, right?
And your text screen itself, which is
text screen, which is about a K too, right?
Half a
K, right?
That's normal for most computers. How much free memory did a Commodore 64 have? Anyone know?
38K or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, see, so it's a common thing.
Yeah.
And now, one of the things that's different in the color computer is, we had the option of starting with an 8K basic ROM, adding another 8K for extended basic, adding another 8K for the disk controller. So there was 24K that could be added. And if they had done it backwards, put color basic way at the top, then they could have made it so you could use all that memory, and then when you added the next 8K ROM, it bumped everything down, and they could have worked reverse. And so that's really my question. Why didn't Tandy do it that way? Because if you have a color basic computer with 32K or more, you can get about 31K out of the computer just on startup. But as you add those, you could never go past it because it had all that place for where ROMs would be if you didn't have them. And it's probably because they just weren't even thinking about memory reaching that far when they designed the poor little machine.
Right.
Also the complication, because then you'd have to have the basics actually know how to remap themselves and change everything too. That might have... They had to fit it in an 8K ROM, and they crammed quite a bit of stuff in there, so it might just be that we're running out of space to try to implement something like that. But I don't know for sure.
Steve, there's one other thing that you didn't mention. Some people, when they buy a CoCo, it doesn't say 64K on the box anywhere. I mean, on the computer at all. I mean, it just says color computer. So,
right.
Then they're
32K should be tough for anyone.
What was that, Ron?
No, just that... you buy a computer and you turn it on and you'll read the screen and it gives you no indication of what size you have, except if it's doesn't have extended basic.
Right. And that was going to lead into my other.
Nobody has upgraded a basic ROM machine with 64K, right? Well, what would you use?
I had one.
Did you really?
I didn't buy extended basic for a while because I cheated back then because I was kind of poor. I was a student, So I got the 64K first because I had found out there was programs you could load the basic ROMs in 64K RAM mode and just run them, so I didn't have to pay for the ROM. Oops, sorry. So it's kind of pirating the ROM in a way.
Okay.
There were some CoCo 2s that actually did say 64K color computer on the badge on the front.
Yeah. Those were the later model ones, yeah.
But not many.
Right. So that was going to lead into my follow-up question on this. Is number one, I think we've explained why we're not seeing everything. But number two, what would be the most reliable way to validate or verify the amount of RAM you have? Diagnostically, the original
crack open the case.
Yeah, crack open the case and look at it. But I mean, you want to test the RAM and have something tell you how much RAM you have and how much RAM is good, right? So, what would be a good validation tool to say, yes, I've got 64K and all 64K is good?
Memory test program.
Right. Yeah. My go-to is Sailorman, just so you know. If it can run Sailorman, it's good. But is there a valid...
Another one, I think, if I remember correctly, OS9 Level 1 came with a 64K memory test. Well, I mean, basically, if you can boot OS9, you have 64K working too, so that's another one.
But there was a diagnostic cartridge. There was a Tandy diagnostic cartridge, but that was made at a time when they were selling 4K and 16K CoCos. I don't think they even planned on making 64K when they first made the CoCo.
No.
Right?
No. I should mention, too, there was a bit of a hack in the early 80s before the 64K got officially made, because RAM chips with the 64K RAM chips was fairly expensive. So some people were doing 32K RAM upgrades by stacking two sets of 16K chips literally on top of each other and soldering pins together. Yep. And it works as 64 or as 32K RAM. You can't use 64K programs, but it did have a couple of quirks. The VDG couldn't access it properly past the first bottom set of chips. So if you did a P mode 4,5 or something up higher in memory, it would start garbling the screen up after you got past the first 16K into the second 16K bank. Basic ran fine, and machine language programs ran fine, but your video, if you tried to offset your video into the second 16K chunk, it would get scrambled. So that's fairly rare. Not too many people did that because that price differential didn't last too long before 64K chips became cheap enough to not warrant it. Right. But there was a period of about from 81 to 83 where that was semi-common. I had one of them for a while too.
Now, there's something else that we haven't taken into account is a newbie gets a color computer and they want to open it up and they see the tag over the hole for the screw, and you'll stop for a minute and think, oh.
Warranty, yeah. You're gonna... So are we worried about voiding the warranty, or are we worried about potential resale value or collectability being tarnished from this?
Well, the warranty was only 90 days, so it wasn't really worth it anyway. So.
That's expired.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Make my day.
Yeah.
Also, Tandy were for a period there selling 32K color computers, which were actually 64K. They did actually have 64K chips, but they weren't telling people or for some reason.
Yeah, because they officially announced 32K CoCos for a couple of years before the 64K CoCo and the CoCo 2 came out in 1983 in September. Mm-hmm. And before that, they were selling 32K for about a year or two, and it actually was 64K chips, and that was where Frank Hogg did his famous Color Computer News article on free 32K for everybody type thing.
Solstice says it's not really yours until you break the warranty seal. So there you go. All right. Okay, well, we're going to continue this topic, but let's take a quick commercial break. So everybody hold that thought, and we'll be back in just a second. This is fascinating stuff, though. I'm on the edge of my seat.
This is Ron's Garage. This is the place. And it's on CoCoTALK. With Stevie Stroh. And a cast of crazies that love this machine. Either one. Either either. It's awesome.
What's going on, guys? Stevie Stroh here, and I want to say thank you so much for being part of this adventure with us. It's been such a great experience in doing CoCoTALK every week, and the support we get is just amazing. And so the fact that you watch and listen is all the reward that we need. However, if you would like to become a patron of the show and offer some financial assistance towards the production and hosting costs of the show, we do have a Patreon site available for that, and you can reach that by going to our website at CoCoTALK.live and clicking on the Patreon link. But just do us a favor and watch and listen to the show. All right, well, we are back, and so we are talking about this right here, folks.
Tell me why did Tandy do that?
And so, yes, why was the man holding us down? Why was the man not letting us have all 64K of our memory? I think we've answered some of those questions, and I think Ron or somebody else had something else they wanted to add to that. So what else can we add to this discussion on why does our memory not look the way it's supposed to?
Well, we haven't spoken about the upcoming 8 megabyte RAM or beyond 512K upgrades for the CoCo 3. There's a few of those in progress. How do we get past the 512K MMU limitation?
Right. Well, that's a whole nother topic, I think. But
well, it's a sort of
it's related. Yeah,
it's related.
VCC and you can use 8.
Right, and so I don't know if Curtis,
I have an 8 meg
wanna,
RAM board, so
yeah, I don't know if you want to take. So from what I understand, there were what was a Tandy only. Tandy only
did
supported did 512, but there were some third parties that went up to 2 megs, right?
Yeah, Disto did 1 meg and 2 meg RAM upgrade.
Okay, board. And then the NoCan board actually went up to 8 megabytes. And what did you get? You got
and was designed to handle up to 64. There was a version in spec. I don't know if it was ever built.
And that was designed to give you 2 megs of real RAM and then 6 megs of a RAM disk?
Well, that was the default drivers. You could technically, if a machine language programmer, could use it for whatever the heck they wanted. Basically, it was basically just extended. There was added some extra bytes in the I/O area that would tell you which chunk of 512K do you want to use. They also had a separate one that pointed to where you wanted your video RAM to be, so you could have your video RAM in a totally separate 512K chunk too. But yeah, as far as the OS9 drivers, it was just easiest to do the 2 meg because that fit the number of bits the MMU registers have normally. Going past that would mean rewriting a lot of the kernel completely and breaking some software, to be honest. So the rest of it was usually used for RAM drive.
So for 2 megabytes, it was really basically a circuit to extend the abilities of the current MMU.
Just enabled the 2 bits that were just not used.
That's right. There were 2 bits unused, and all they've done is they've made use of those 2, and that allows you to go up to 2 megabytes. To go beyond 2 megabytes was a bit more involved in that you had to then replicate that 2 megabyte space up multiple times, I guess.
Yeah, and you had special extra registers added to show it where the video's coming from out of that beyond 2 meg space, and where your regular MMU blocks are coming from beyond the 2 meg space.
Two megabytes should be enough for anyone.
Yeah, right. It was more than the PC needed.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you can print those little stickers that cover the bolt hole there.
The warranty.
And then you use a retro bright and make a brand new machine almost, huh?
Yeah. I think
well, Tandy never had a 512K badge for the CoCo 3 either, but somebody at one of the fests started making them.
Yeah, it was Mike Rowan.
Yeah. That's right.
Yep. Yeah, so memory has always been a challenge for older systems, right? Always trying to squeeze what you could into the RAM, and there's
true with humans too.
Yeah, very true. I mean, there's a similar rate of exchange deficit when you look at hard drives, right? You know, hard drive's supposed to have a certain amount of capacity, but what's printed on the box, number one, is printed in decimal, not binary. So when they say 500 gigs, it's not 500 times the gigabyte, it's 500,000. That's your first differential. Once you start formatting things with your file systems, that puts on overhead. And so hard drives are never going to report the space you think they're going to have either because of file systems, cluster sizes, all kinds of crap like that. So there's always this thing where I thought I was getting so much, but I'm getting a little bit less, and I think to a degree that happens today on some newer stuff.
That's like getting a TV and measuring it at a diagonal.
Yeah. 60-inch TV is not 60 inches wide, right? So
no.
Yeah.
And to be honest, on hard drives, that's been a more recent change because back in the hard drives, the older ones you bought in the 80s and stuff, a meg was a meg. I think it was in the late 90s, somewhere around there is when they started changing it over because it was just easier for normal people to understand. So now you do 1024 base.
And I noticed that. I noticed that too with a SideQuest hard drive I had hooked up to my CoCo. 128 megs was the computer, 128 megs. And when I got Cloud9's IDE interface that used a compact flash card, I went down and bought a 128 meg compact flash card, thought I could copy it over, and it was smaller.
Right. Yes. All right. Well, what else we need to talk about memory? Have we beat memory to death, or is there anything else we need to close on that? Because we had another one to discuss today, right?
Well, let me add that what we probably need is a very simple, basic program people can type in that tells them if they have 32K or 64K, because it's easy to tell if you've got 4 or 16. But you can't write one purely in BASIC because in order for BASIC to run, those ROMs have to be mapped in. So we probably just need to give somebody a simple little program they can type in that's got some machine language in it that's just a few lines of something that would just tell them, because this comes up so often on the Facebook list.
Yep.
So that would.
But there's some programs I think on the archive too.
That would go along with the poke or whatever for the multi-pack and gimme date. Could be like a little
kind of like a newbie's guide for people that don't have all the stuff set up to download and make disk images or cassette files, where they could just type in some simple things and kind of know what they have, because it seems like every week somebody pops up and asks the same question.
Yep, that's a good point.
It probably wouldn't need a very elaborate program. If you can poke to the high area of memory, do a poke and a read and alter 1 byte above the 32K, you can safely say then you have 64K, because it only ever came out either as a 32 or a 64 anyway. So if you can alter some RAM under the ROMs, just 1 byte, then you can, that'll be a one-liner. You can
well, except the fact that as soon as you do the poke to swap the RAM out, your ROM's gone, so now your basic program doesn't have anything to run.
Just needs to be a little machine language program to.
Yeah, you do need a little machine language program because you have to keep control. You can't even do a poke. I mean, you do the first poke that tells it enable 32K, and then your second poke that's going to try to poke into it, there's no poke command anymore. You have no ROM.
Mm.
Yeah, but I bet you it could be, a dozen data statements in a basic program to do that. So maybe one of us will actually do that, and we can make it a sticky file on the group or something.
Yeah.
As Steve said, the best test is load SailorMan. If it runs SailorMan...
Oh, no, I would pick OS 9 level 1. I mean, that
SailorMan is the best test.
That you can download for emulators?
So what was that, Lee?
So for emulators, what would be your best option for a good BASIC?
They all use the same ROMs.
Well, is there any other basics that have been patched or tweaked or anything like that? Aside from Basic 09, still talking RS-DOS.
The disk ROMs have been patched all over the place. There's YA-DOS, HDB-DOS, ADOS3, ADOS3 Extended, so those have definitely had some patches. As far as the Color Basic and Extended Basic ROMs, I don't know if anybody really did. There was some 64K RAM programs that would copy the ROMs to RAM and patch them a little bit so you can get 40K of accessible space and stuff, which some people had burned on the ROMs back in the day, but that's about the only thing I know of, to be honest.
And there was a 40K basic patch that floated around back then, but it moved things around or something, so I guess that had some incompatibility issues, but it kind of tried to do the same trick the 64K Dragon did.
Because the question is, who's planning on writing a big basic program anyway?
Bruce.
Well, yeah, there's Bruce, but is there anyone else?
Hey, how does Linville do his video movies? How is he? That's a CoCo 3, I guess, but
yeah, but that's
streaming
memory manager.
That's streaming off of a hard drive or memory card device. That's not swapping RAM like crazy.
But it is, isn't it? It's bringing in RAM all the time, right?
Yeah, but it's within the 64K space. It's not going outside and doing all these special wacko things we're talking about here. It's basically just you could run it on. Well, you had a 64K. There's a 64K video player for the CoCo 1 and 2, but kind of proves that as long as you can keep reading it fast enough into the video, that's all you need. You don't need to add more RAM to handle it.
CoCoMan's got Sailor Man running. So you've got 64K CoCoMan?
That's a good 64K test right there.
Yes.
The ultimate 64K RAM test.
Right there.
By the way, Jim Gary says 20K is more than anyone would ever need for a basic program. So. The MC10.
You can do a fairly big program in 20K, really.
Yeah. And the thing I didn't realize back in the day, I've only kind of understood recently, is that the amount of everything that the CoCo does, it does in RAM. So the graphics itself takes up RAM. The program takes up RAM. I couldn't understand why some of the old 4K games looked so bad. I just thought they were lazy or sloppy. I'm like, man, why do all these games have this look like crap? But it's really because with 4K, you're limited to a low resolution screen. All right. And you. What's that?
You're talking about the MC10.
No, but even the early CoCo.
Even 4K CoCo.
MC10 have left over for basic.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of low res, did anybody see? I think it's Roger Taylor posted a video of him looking at a real low graphics movie.
Yeah, that was neat. It was like constantly
That's
scrolling.
awesome.
Yeah, I was watching that, but I couldn't finish watching it. But that was really neat. It was all like just scrolling text. Yeah.
A friend of mine just got a Commodore, and he wants to do a BBS, right? And he goes, "Well, I'd like you to maybe design my front end of it." And I go, "Geez, it would take so long to make up something, with all those blocks and everything." And then I saw that movie, and I thought to myself, "Geez, it would take centuries to make all that. Each screen at a time, you're making characters and you're doing text and."
Yeah, well, there was anti-editors back in the day for that. I remember using them on the PC. So
yeah.
Grant is here. Grant is carrying the troll mantle since Jim Brain is not here. Welcome, Grant. I thought that was really interesting. Grant says, "I'm sorry, I'm not on today. I got the David flu." David Ladd is infecting us all.
Right.
Yeah.
Could I make a small comment?
Of course.
In regards to Ron's thing about the BBS and the tech screens. That Ron, there's a trick that you could do. Is if you want, write a basic program to basically use BASIC to generate your text screens. So you could have certain backgrounds and things like that and update your screen. Then you output the screen as your frame for the BBS, and then you can just move objects, take the frame buffer, and you just keep doing that, and then you can piece that together for your animated movie. That's actually how I proved to my COBOL instructor back when I was going to my school, because she was adamant that you couldn't do animation in COBOL. So I turned around and used a basic program to generate the screens, and I had probably thousands of COBOL includes, and basically a menu would draw down the screen, blow up, and then you'd have your menu, and then it would shrink and then go off the screen. And she just looked at that and she was like, "Okay, you get your 4.0. So you can do it. Just use BASIC to make your life easier. You don't have to draw it. Just put your characters, your other stuff that that are going to be part of your screen as basic statements or something, and move it around. Then take the screenshot, and then do it again. Take your screenshot, and then you just assemble it in your little video."
I thought of maybe drawing something up on a PC and then digitize it.
Well, I'm pretty sure today there is a program already out there that'll take a graphics image and export it out as ANSI or whatever. I mean, it's basically just a low-res display, so the tools available today would probably make that 3.5-minute movie be something somebody could knock off over a lunch break.
Wow.
And there's been some pretty amazing ANSI graphics. Like, I mean, Roger Taylor did some demos of some of the color stuff. And then I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's an actual version of the Star Wars movie done in all text.
Like ASCII Wars, yeah.
It's like 20 minutes long with, text prompts and stuff instead of the actual speech.
Yeah, there was a program back in the day that was called The Draw, and back in the DOS days, and that's how I did a lot of my ANSI stuff, and that's how I did all the stuff for my Cosmic Aliens game, is I drew all the title graphics and things like that in The Draw, and then just took those and copied and pasted them into my basic code. But I remember doing ANSI for, like, when you first logged onto your bulletin board, you would download the whole animated title screen. That was like a really cool thing back in the day. The one that Roger did was just constantly scrolling, though, which was pretty cool. But yeah, if your friend wants to do something on the Commodore, I would think that whatever you're doing that represents graphics needs to conform to a common standard too, right? So probably like text style graphics is probably the best way to go, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, the Commodore had PET-ASCII. It had its own version of an extended character set with all the different colors. So there was ANSI, there was Atari had its own, Commodore had its own. So that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah, interesting, right. Yeah, so and just going back to some stuff in the live chat. So Nick Marotta was I got a kick too out of how David was saying, basically you could do this in BASIC, right? So Nick was commenting on that too. James Jones was talking about your COBOL comment, David. He says, silly instructor, I'd never have thought you could write a compiler in COBOL, but Grace Hopper led a team to write a COBOL compiler in COBOL. So, be surprised what you can do. Never say never, right? All right, have we beat the memory one to death? Do we want to go on to our next topic? We have another Tandy topic. You can't remember. All right, we're gonna good one.
Attack overflow.
Yes. We are going to do one more commercial break, and we're going to go on to our next Why Did Tandy Do That topic. So we'll be right back, people.
Hi, this is Mark Overholser, and you're listening to CoCoTALK, the nation's leading weekly live talk show about the Tandy color computer.
We make games for the TRS-80 color computer, TRS-80 MC10, and Dragon computers. Our basic games cover the range of genres from arcade, to text adventures, to simulations, to 3D dungeon crawls. This is our latest puzzle game from Japan, Fruit Panic. So come on and drop by our website and download our latest games.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me, it's Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. Gameplay goodness. Gameplay goodness.
Gameplay goodness.
All right, people. Gameplay goodness. Thank you so much. Gameplay goodness. Yeah?
Gameplay goodness.
Are you ready for this?
Gameplay goodness.
Yeah? Gameplay goodness.
Are you ready for this?
Gameplay goodness.
Yeah! Gameplay goodness. Gameplay goodness. This is how we like to do it.
Gameplay goodness. All right, people.
Gameplay goodness.
That's right. Get your share of gameplay goodness today at a YouTube channel near you, where you can see all kinds of color computer gameplay videos, including some of those made by people who are even here in this panel today. So we're back.
Good job, Steve.
Yeah. Yes. So we are on a topic here which I feel is worth playing again. That topic is called...
Tell me why
Why did Tandy do that? That is the topic of the day. So we have talked about how Tandy has confused the hell out of us with how much memory we have, or think we have, or can use. You never know. Hey, Paul Thayer's calling in here. And so I think we can leave the memory topic alone for now. But there was another topic that that Nick Marentes wanted to talk about. Nick, so do you want to clue us in on another confusing thing Tandy did?
Yeah, well, my topic was there only in case Steve wasn't going to make it. So I don't know if you want to go through with this, or we'll keep this.
You want to save it? We'll save it for another week.
I could just do a really quick, short version of it, so it doesn't take up too much time.
Okay.
It's up to you. Mine was more of a whinge, I guess, about why did Tandy do that rather than, like the memory one and such. So if you want to hear a whinge, I can do that.
Go ahead.
Well, my topic was to be about the CoCo's video outputs, and it's more centered around the Color Computer 3. As the Color Computer 3 is unique in that it actually has got, you can actually display have three separate mirrored video outputs on the Color Computer 3 running all at once. That's fairly unique.
Take a look here.
Hey?
Take a look here.
Yeah.
I have two.
You've got two. Well,
right now.
Three. You can have an RGB monitor using the RGB outputs of the Color Computer 3. You can have a composite monitor, as I assume that's what you have on the right there.
Yep.
For a composite output. And you can have RF, which is hooking up a color TV or whatever. So you can have all three running at once. I don't know of any other computer of the era that could do that, but they are the same image though. They're not separate images like on a modern computer where you can have dual video to have two separate items. It still is a mirrored display. Now for some people can't afford an RGB monitor, and an RGB monitor is what gives you the best output. It's built in on the gimme chip to provide a really as high res as possible output and very good colors to an RGB display or something that will display the RGB output. Composite though is a bit different when you're running an NTSC or an American Color Computer 3. It's you would assume that the composite output would look exactly the same as the RGB output, but it doesn't. The colors that are used in RGB mode are different to the colors being used in composite mode and RF. They're both linked together. Actually, there's a good example now.
Yeah.
Notice the pink. I mean, look at the RGB, and it's not pink. It's meant to be grey.
Right.
Why did Tandy do that? Why is it different? And I'm not sure what the background is behind the development of the gimme chip to do that, but I'm just thinking that Tandy added the composite output on the gimme chip as an afterthought. They designed the gimme chip to produce RGB video, which is very good, but last minute I read that Tandy turned around and said, well, the CoCo is our home computer, really. Not everyone who buys a CoCo 3, rather, is going to afford an RGB monitor. We still need to have the CoCo 3 being the games home computer, low-end computer. So they had to kludge in a composite video output on that gimme chip as well. And the way they did it was using a different way of mapping the color. It uses an intensity, I don't know all the tech talk there, but rather than separate RGB, red, green, blue signals, which is what the RGB does, it used a different system whereby they use the hues and all that. The problem that I have always had as a programmer is that you're right. I developed using an RGB monitor, and I can make a program look good under RGB. But then you switch to a composite, so you can see what your game's going to look like on someone's Color Computer 3 who doesn't have an RGB monitor, and it's completely wrong. Not only are the colors wrong, but it's also a lot blurrier. The quality of the picture is terrible. Now, coming in Australia, this is a strange thing. In Australia, we have the PAL video system. PAL Color Computer 3s were different to the NTSC Color Computer 3s. I didn't know that back in the 80s. So when I created software on my RGB monitor, they looked the same on composite. The colors were the same. The quality was not as good as our RGB. It was a little bit fuzzy, of course, but it was fairly good for composite output, and the colors were the same. I didn't have to do anything else to the program to make it look correct on a composite display. Well, as it turns out, in America though, where they run the NTSC, that was completely wrong. So my games early on didn't have the correct colors. That's why a lot of Color Computer 3 games come up and they ask you when they start up, have you got RGB screen or have you got a composite screen? That's so that the program then can change the colors and make it suit for the composite palette. Now, I always thought that why did they do that? I mean, no other computer I'm aware of in the Commodores and Ataris had that set. Well, they didn't have RGB for starters, so we had the leg up on them. But the thing is, there was none of this two different color palettes to have to worry about. Why did Tandy do that, and only for the NTSC ones? Why couldn't they have made the NTSC color computers like the PAL ones? The PAL ones were correct. The outputs were the same. There was no confusion. Well, later on, when I got my NTSC Color Computer 3, and I actually saw the problem firsthand between composite and RGB, I went and started exploring, and I looked at the motherboards and compared the motherboards of a PAL-based Color Computer 3 and a NTSC-based Color Computer 3, and they are different in regards to how the composite video is generated. Now, the Gimme chip can produce RGB video, and it also produces that NTSC composite. So on an NTSC Color Computer 3, those outputs then go out to the connectors on the computer, and you hook up your monitors and away you go. On a PAL computer, the composite output of the Gimme chip is not connected. They don't use it. They purposely do not use the NTSC composite output, of course. What they've done is they've got a daughter board, a second board attached to the motherboard, which picks up the RGB signals, runs it through a RGB to composite encoder, and then outputs the composite video output. And because it's being derived from the RGB, the colors are therefore the same. Now, to show that, I'll just switch my video on. I actually do have a PAL motherboard here, so that I can show the daughter board. So I'll just switch it on now. You might want to put me on the big screen there, Steve.
Gotcha.
Okay, I've switched across. Okay, that's me. I'll take the 4As off. Now.
I can't hear you now. Put your glasses back on.
I'm looking the wrong way, am I? Now, if I can hold it still in front of the camera, which way's up and down? Bloody thing.
Up is towards the ceiling.
Yeah, there I go.
In Australia, it's upside down.
That's right. Well, that's right. Up is down and down is up. Now, that's a PAL motherboard. It's generally the same as an NTSC one, but if you look at where the CPU is, Hang on, I'll just hold this a bit differently, and I'll try. Yeah, am I getting it? Yeah, there is. Oops, I'm doing this, looking at it mirror imaged on the camera.
Right there, you got it. That's the CPU.
That's the CPU. Now it's horizontal. On an NTSC color computer, that's vertical. It's so that it is different in that regard. And what they've done is, if I flip the motherboard over, the part that you don't normally see when you look inside a Color Computer 3, if I spin it over and look under the board, see there's a section hanging on the bottom of the motherboard?
Yeah.
An NTSC Color Computer does not have that. I'll just angle it up a bit to get a bit more light onto it.
Yeah, see it.
Just trying to get the angles right here because my lighting's not great.
No,
so there's an extra board underneath the motherboard. And what that does is to pick up the RGB signals off the main board, sends it through some encoder chips, regenerates composite video, and then sends that back out so you can connect it from the back of the CoCo. The encoding of the RGB to PAL is better quality than what the Guinea is generating. So you get a better quality image as well as getting the correct colors. So this is the way I reckon all color computers should have been made, and not bothered with the NTSC trying to generate or fudge a composite video in the design. Now, why did you do that? That's the question. Obviously, it's
my only guess is that it has something to do with the artifacting colors. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yes, well, that is true. You do not get artifacting under PAL. Even without this board, PAL composite does not produce NTSC artifacting. The NTSC artifact colors comes out because of the nature of NTSC composite video being bad, and it relies on that badness to create those erroneous colors. So they're not real colors; they're artifacts from a bad output. And Tandy did that on purpose because they did want to have the NTSC output to be compatible with the old Color Computer 2 games.
Right.
But in Australia, or anywhere there was a PAL color computer, none of those artifact games worked anyway. Even on the Color Computer 2, 1 and 2, we never got artifacting because PAL doesn't artifact the same way. It has got artifacting, but it's an ugly, a greeny purple stripes. So for years, I always wondered, I saw pictures of Steve Bjork's excellent Zaxxon program. Everyone was saying, oh yeah, this Zaxxon, it's so spectacular. And when I saw it, and in the other game written in P Mode 4 that was supposed to have artifact colors, they looked terrible. It was better to turn the color down on the TV and watch the game in black and white. And you get that same effect on a Color Computer 3 when you're running RGB. You do not get artifacting on RGB. You just get black and white. But it would have been nice if the colors were correct at least. And they aren't. So, and then color would have been nice to give you that correct color. Then programmers wouldn't have to battle with two different color sets which weren't exactly the same at all. You had to come with to get it as close as you could to the original RGB. So that's my job.
Yeah. Well, Tim Franklin's asking a question, which I think is a good one. What happens if you type in the CMP command? If you type in, palette CMP, does that change?
No difference. On a PAL one, it did not change.
Okay.
Actually, the ROMs in a PAL CoCo 3 have been modified so the composite throws out the same RGB palette. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, artifacting was big in North America, as everybody here is saying. Yeah, it's something we grew to rely on. So
that and it was the same on the Apple II as well.
Yep. And hey, Paul Thayer, thanks for joining us. If Paul's there.
Hey, no problem. I had to come off mute there for a second.
No problem.
How's everybody doing?
We're doing good.
Cool.
Yeah, I think the short answer to all these questions is why did Tandy do most of the things they did was I think we already know the answer is to save money. But we're not looking for the short answer. We're looking for things we can pontificate about here on this program. So,
well, I think in the case of this composite,
in this one here, yeah, this is a technical explanation of why it's different too. Yeah, that is neat. Now, one of the things that Ed Snyder is going to be doing to address some of that is he's mentioned that he's going to update his RGB to S-Video board. That's going to have newer features, including correcting the RGB palette for composite, giving it a cleaner one. So it sounds like Ed's going to be doing what the PAL version did, but I think he said he's also going to support artifacting too. So that is one of the things that we are now having the benefit of is some people are creating things to improve what we didn't have. CoCo 1 and 2 didn't have composite at all, and there are a number of composite solutions for that. We've got VGA solutions now for the CoCo 1 and 2 and for the CoCo 3. And from there we've got, and Richard's not with us, but now we also have the RGB to SCART, which can be converted to HDMI. So we are able to compensate, luckily now, and usually somewhat inexpensively, some of these shortcomings. And I agree with you, Nick. The way RGB looks on a RGB monitor, it's the CM8. It's so glorious, you know.
Yeah. Well,
there we have it.
Why did Tandy do this?
That's right. Well, let's play that theme music one more time because it's worthy of hearing again.
Tell me why did Tandy do that?
Yes. So interesting little segment, and we started that segment up front because Steve Bjork had limited time. We'll take a quick break, and then we're gonna back it up, and we're gonna go back and talk about maybe acquisitions and project updates. And since we have a few people here who are working on projects, maybe we can hear from them what's going on with their projects, and then we'll move on to some feedback and things like that too. So we will be right back, people. And thank you, Nick. And thanks for keeping it short too, like you promised.
Don't want me to talk about floppies now?
Yes, we're going to get into floppies in just a second. All right, we'll be back after these words.
Hi, this is Dale Lear, designer of TRS-80 Color Baseball, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
Where can you catch all the latest news and information about the Tandy color computer and compatibles? Oh yeah, I'm talking about the CoCo Crew podcast. Dig it each month. Join John, Neil, and Mike as they lay down the latest news and information about the Radio Shack Tandy color computer and compatibles. Groove to interviews, tech segments, and discussions all about the Radio Shack Tandy color computer. Strut your fine self over to www.cococrew.org and start listening today. The CoCo Crew Podcast. Keeping it CoCo, dig?
My fellow Americans, Australians, Canadians, Europeans, and all of you ands, I'm calling on all y'all to help us make the world great again by visiting the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com, where you can get yourself a coffee mug like this with a little cute cartoon character that says, I'm a Coco Nut. You could also get yourself a coffee mug like this with a Color Computer 3 that says, I'm a Coco Nut. You could get yourself a deluxe travel mug like this with the CoCoTALK logo on it. You might even be able to get yourself a DVD like this with over 2 hours of gameplay goodness. It is time for us to rise up and make the world great again by enjoying some quality retro merchandise and CoCo nostalgia. So please visit 8bit256.com and let's make the world great for the color computer. Thank you very much. All right, my fellow Americans, we're back. And we're going a little bit out of order today, but we are going to go around the room and talk about acquisitions and project updates, etc., etc. So who wants to go first on this one here? I know a number of us mentioned at the top of the show we got a few things that we want to talk about today. Anyone? Anyone?
Bueller.
Okay, how about Lee Patterson? Lee Patterson, our guest of honor today. Thanks for raising your hand, too. Very good. Lee Patterson, author of Bouncy Ball.
So I have actually been working on another project, although it's not specifically for the color computer. I've been working on Bouncy Ball Next Generation. I essentially had a craving to play some Bouncy Ball. But I also needed to learn how to program on the iPhone and iPad, so I wanted to learn how to program in Swift. So I figured it was a perfect time to make Bouncy Ball for the Mac and for the iPad and for the iPhone and Apple TV, actually.
Cool.
So yeah, it should be hopefully published or submitting to the App Store late next week, I'm hoping, for the Apple TV and iOS, and then the Mac version will be probably a week or two later.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and shout out to Curtis and Alan for doing some testing for me.
Excellent. Is there something that we can look at? Have you got a link that we can pull up on a YouTube video or your website or anything?
Let's see here. You can go to 8bitcoder.com/bbng. I don't know if I can actually stream a version of me playing it.
Should be able to with screen or window sharing.
Okay, 8bitcoder.com / what now?
/bbng. Bouncy Ball NG.
/bbng Bouncy Ball Next Generation. Okay, I've got it up here.
Just bbng.
Okay, so we got that going here. And here's a video here we can click on?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that video doesn't have sound.
It's okay. Okay, here's the levels. Okay, the levels look just like the CoCo, but what you've added in the background is a kind of a parallax scrolling background that we don't have in the CoCo version.
You got it.
So it's a nice fusion of retro looking with a little bit of enhancements, because we have this nice little playing field in the background, which looks really good. Oh, the explosions look good. The little smiley face there looks good. Bouncy Ball Next Generation. Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, the goal was to make it look the same and play pretty much the same, but instead having a little bit more modern feel to it. So just scrolling, parallax scrolling. So those are the key features. I wanted to make it feel a little bit newer, but still look the same. I preserved the old levels, and it plays close to the same, except that it's the fact that it's so much smoother. The ball moves pixel by pixel as opposed to
the byte boundaries. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So
it
plays really well. Let me see if I can actually share my screen.
Okay. I think the irony of all of this is that when you did Bouncy Ball for the CoCo a couple years ago, it was inspired by a mobile game. So you took a mobile game, you CoCo-fied a mobile game, and now you're mobilizing your CoCo game. So we've come full circle here. So.
It's like Inception.
Awesome, isn't it?
Inception. Yeah. And for my next trick.
Here we go. Share screen. There. Share.
I have to mention it actually works with game controllers on the Apple TV too. That was one of the things I was testing on it.
Yes.
I wish I was.
All right.
I wish I was running Nitrous 9.
Yep.
I wish, and so does my wife.
All right, so
a game by Lee Patterson. Ooh, look at that.
Right,
ooh, there's our controller options.
So you can actually use a controller on the Mac. I actually had an MFI compatible controller connected to through Bluetooth, and it works great. Absolutely great.
The Nimbus Steel one works fine on the Apple TV too.
Good. Yeah, I'm actually using the HoriPad Ultimate, so it's a good way to do it.
Okay, Jim Gary said that Darren Atkinson also did a version of Bouncy Ball for the MC10, so thank you for sharing your maps.
Yes, he did a good one. You'll actually see it linked on the Bouncy Ball page as well.
Okay. Grant Leighty's asking if there's going to be an Android version of this.
No Android, no, not at least not right away.
Okay.
It's written in Swift. I don't know if there's a Swift available for Android yet.
There's for the PC, isn't there? I thought they made a Windows port of it, or we're in the midst of doing it.
What were the red ones again? What did the red ones do, Lee?
They're death.
Yeah, you die instantly.
Instant
the purple
death.
ones are kind of doorways, I guess.
Oh, the purple ones. That's what I was meant to say. Yeah. Okay. Is there a way you?
Purple ones are just. Yeah, those are just breakaways.
Okay. Exit is okay. I love how you have like some extra features here of like text popping up on the screen now and everything too. You know.
Yeah.
Some added things.
Yeah,
that
percentage
you
of keys
do.
left up in the corner too is nice and.
Yeah. Things that were harder to do on a CoCo basically SG4 screen.
Yeah, exactly. And let me see here.
Pick your different levels. Looks like you can, is there a little bit of shading on the blocks, or is that just taking a while for Skype to show up here? The block solid color?
You'll actually see around the ball, there's a kind of a light field that you can sometimes tell. Let's see here. Not always showing up too well. You can just kind of see the green sort of gets lighter and darker.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of pulses.
Yeah,
also, I noticed you made the sound when you're hitting the wall versus hitting one of the bricks actually is louder or softer depending which one you're hitting too.
Yeah, different tone. Well, you're not actually getting any sound. Let me see if I can change that.
Yeah, click on Skype Share System Sound if that's an option. It's on the plus sign.
The plus. Here we go. Plus. Audio video settings. Built-in.
Is there an OS 9 version?
That's next. No.
Actually, probably could be done, this one.
Yeah. Now, is there a timer? Yeah, there is. Now, does the timer affect you negatively? Yeah, it looks like it's counting down. On the Skype settings, right next to the plus where you have share screens, right on that same pop-up menu should be share system sound if it's an option. That certainly looks really good.
And Lee, you might have to change your input again too for your sound because we're not hearing you now.
We're not hearing you, Lee.
Okay, let me try one more thing.
Okay.
Settings.
We're doing it live, folks.
I was going to say, this was an issue that me and Bruce had when we were trying to do screen shares, that the Mac didn't seem to want to share the
Mac doesn't want to share
audio through.
Okay. Could be a Mac thing. I'm hearing something now, maybe.
Whoops.
It should be within Skype.
Did you see an option in Skype to share system sound from your little plus menu?
No.
Yeah, then it's probably not going to work. That's okay. We can see it, and it's good.
Oh well, yeah. But yeah,
Blame Microsoft.
They did something right. So let me try and show you this level. It's too bad there isn't sound. The sound just really helps.
Who's making that sound right now? Somebody making that sound with their mouth? That pop pop sound?
It works actually.
That sounds nothing like the actual game sound, but
No. The promo video, I'll have some music. I don't know if I'll have sound in the game, but I'm thinking of having a little playthrough video. But at the same time, I don't want to like how to get through levels or anything like that for people.
Right.
But I'm finding Swift is quite a good, nice little language.
Now, are you using metal in this too, or?
Nope, this is a Sprite Kit.
Okay.
So it's actually Apple's API, which is absolutely, I actually really like it. And in fact, this is Swift code here.
Wow. Now you had to learn this language?
It's very basic.
Yeah, I picked it up. I picked it. I was using it a little bit when I wrote a little iPhone app, like probably like last year, but I only spent a few weeks on it, and then I started poking around with it when I started on Bouncy Ball. That was like in September-ish timeframe. So it's really not a hard language to learn.
Okay.
And there's just a ton of stuff you can do. I mean, you can actually get lighting effects. All those, where'd it go? So this scrolling is based on hardware.
Okay.
When you actually go into the level, the lighting here that you can kind of see is based on is handled by the system.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can kind of see.
Yeah, it looks like it's like lighting its way through the dark area. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That is neat. Things that would be hard to do on a CoCo.
What's that?
Said things that would be hard to do on a CoCo.
Yeah, totally.
That sounds like a challenge, Nick.
Yeah.
All right.
My next project that I'm working on is going to be using the scene kit, which is basically 3D stuff.
Okay.
So far that's proving to be like totally super easy. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. So whatever happened to Bouncy Ball 2 for the CoCo 3? Is that one just on hold right now?
Just on hold.
Okay. Simon was helping you with that. I remember you had some tiles and some of the acid pools and things like that when you were first started working on that. And then you started mountain hiking and we didn't hear from you for like a year. So
I became a mountain man for years.
So
hiking and backpacking, and now that I'm actually not working right now, so doing some programming and get a few iOS games out, and then have one in CoCo again.
Very cool. Yeah. So David's asking, is there a link for it? But you haven't fully submitted it to the App Store yet, right?
No, not submitted yet.
Right.
But if you go to...
But if we go to 8-Bit Coder, we should be able to find it there. Once it's ready, right? So if you go to 8bitcoder.com, once it's there, we'll find it. Right? And there's the guy from Bouncy Ball. Here's your project, right? Bouncy Ball Next Generation. So
I really like how the graphic icon for the Bouncy Ball character 2 looks exactly like David Ladd, except yellow.
Yes.
It's a smile.
I'm making a list. Everyone's going to be hurting at CoCo Fest.
Like Nixon's enemies list.
Yes.
All right, now how do I turn the screen sharing off again?
Click on the same plus, and stop sharing screens, I think. That's cool, Lee.
Thank you.
Very
the
cool.
plus isn't working.
There's got to be a way. Yeah, click on the plus sign, and then it should be stop sharing screen.
I clicked on the camera icon to stop the video, and then it's...
Well, it's not your camera, it's the screen share.
Yeah, it's the screen sharing, the plus sign.
The little plus sign next to the hang up and everything else.
All right. It looks like it's froze.
While we're figuring out how to stop screen sharing, we'll roll another commercial. We'll be right back, folks.
Welcome to Ron's Garage. This is it. This is the place. This is where you should be. This is where you should tune in because Stevie Stroh has a great show. It's called CoCoTALK.
What's going on, everybody? The original gamer Stevie Stroh here, and I want to talk to you about I'mACoconut.com. If you love the color computer like I love the color computer, then you got to visit I'mACoconut.com, your one-stop shop for all of your Tandy color computer links needs. There you'll find links to blogs and podcasts and project sites and emulators and downloads and groups and communities. If you love the color computer, head on over to I'mACoconut.com. That's I-M-A, Coconut.com. Tell them the original gamer Stevie Stroh sent you. Coco forever, people.
Only the bravest souls enter. Only the most cunning return. Defeat innumerable monsters to ransom the king's scepter, stolen by the evil wizard. Your sword, shield, and wits are your only allies. Pray you find a magical inn as your only respite in the forest of doom.
For the Tandy color computer 1, 2, and 3.
November 2017, if you dare.
Yeah, Richard has joined us, and the question is somebody chewing gum or are you just clacking on your keyboard? Because, yeah, we hear a lot of click-clacking sounds right now. Hey, Richard, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Richard Lorbieski is here.
Probably Mark. Someone has to carry the torch.
Yes. The trolling must continue at any and all costs. Okay, so hopefully Lee will call back. That was neat. Taking a look at Bouncy Ball. We met Lee for the first time at the 25th annual last Chicago CoCo Fest, which was my first CoCo Fest, and so Bouncy Ball was one of the new games for the CoCo that year, that along with Farfall and a few others on cartridge. I think Bomb Squad was new that year too, Farfall and a few of the John Linville programs. So it was neat to have Lee there, to meet Lee. We kind of followed the progress of that on Facebook and heard about it on the CoCo Crew podcast. And so now we're seeing the next generation. So kind of cool. So thanks, Lee, for showing that off. And
I
who
just got
else?
a text message from Lee, too. He just said his Mac's acting a little bit weird after the Skype thing, so he's just going to reboot and then try to call back.
Okay, good. So we had a few other people who had some projects or other things to show off. Jason, you said you had a world premiere nobody's seen before.
This is a world premiere CoCoTALK Live exclusive premiere, and it started with there's this styrofoam parcel that arrived.
Oh, okay.
And see if we can get that there. You can see it was addressed to Sir Jason Reighard.
Sir Jason Reighard, yes. Sir Jason.
So, this is the premiere.
Your full title is the Duke of Douche, right?
I believe that's Nick Marionettes. That's Nick Marionettes. You're just jealous. That's what it is. But today on CoCoTALK Live, I can reveal the chalice of bravery.
I braved the Forest of Doom. That looks nice.
And,
My douche mug is better.
Look at that font.
That looks good.
Look at that tree. It's
gorgeous.
That's a hasn't been on Facebook, hasn't been anywhere. This is where it's going to be first, and I'll make sure to bring this to. If I go to CoCo Fest, I'll make sure I bring this to to drink out of just to
spite everybody.
To rub it in all of our faces,
especially Steve. Yes.
That's like the Stanley Cup. Don't be surprised if it accidentally gets shites in.
I'm keeping the styrofoam package that it came in. It's gonna be protected in there. I'm not gonna risk this getting damaged.
Nice. It's a nice looking mug. I mean, if you think about it,
it's
a
nice mug.
So, what the hell's going on here with my phone? Okay. Sorry about that. Telemarketer calling. Yeah, no, it's a good looking mug. And I think what's cool about this is and we have Bruce with us here too, the author of Forest of Doom and creator of the contest. But, Forest of Doom was a game that came on a physical book, right? So there was something physical to the game. And not only that, but there was a couple of physical prizes you could win by being one of the first to do things in the game. So that's kind of neat and exclusive in itself. That doesn't happen too often. So cool. What are your thoughts on that, Bruce, seeing that now, seeing the mug out there?
Well, it's good to see that it actually happened because, when I first tried to get that mug made for Jason, I got a response back saying, this is, we don't have the rights to sell this. This is copywritten material. And I'm like, what? So I typed them back and said, no, this tree here, this is not copywritten. I got this public domain, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I get another message back saying, no, it's not that. This is based on the book Force of Doom, published in 2005, something or other, blah, blah, blah. And so we can't sell it. And I was like, okay, so first of all, you can't copyright the title of a book, okay, or a title of a song. So that's just to be clear about that. And then I sent them links to Lulu and all that. Said, no, this is my look. This is my book. I wrote this.
Right.
Please, please let me. And then they, and then I sent it again, and they went, oh, sorry, yes, we'd be happy to. So that's part of why it only arrived recently. But there was a chance it wasn't even going to happen. So that did get resolved, thankfully.
Well, I guess you have to admire the fact they are trying to respect copyrights of whoever owns an intellectual property, even though it happened to be yours.
Yep.
If it was some other random stranger trying to, pawn off mugs, you'd be glad to know, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, that guy would be a real douche. The great news is that somebody actually read my email and went, okay, right. Instead of just getting a general brush off. Which,
right. No, that's cool. That's cool. So 2 of these mugs exist. So Paul Fiscarelli got the first one, which was...
They're not the same.
They're not the same.
Mugs are not
that's right. Oh. So the first one says, I was the first person to survive, right? And that was called... Which one was that called? The Chalice of...
Bravery, the one mug to rule them all, I think. Is
yeah.
What happened.
So this one's the Chalice of Bravery that he got?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's neat.
So going to be mugs for the other levels?
Well,
is the name douche copyright?
Forest of Douche. Duke
of Douche.
I got a little something here that goes along with that to share. I'm working on my display for CoCoTALK.
Okay.
And
Coco Fest. Yeah.
Coco Fest, and this is big.
Yeah. That looks good.
I'm hoping I can get this guy to be.
Can't miss that.
Hanging out and hanging over my display to some degree. So. It's so big I can see the pixels. Yeah.
I thought you would dress up as a large tree.
No, not this time, no. And I've got another project that I'm hoping to have launched by then, which is a little hush-hush at the moment in case it doesn't work. But there are a few of you who know what it's about. And it is, again, something a little media bending in a way. Force of Doom was sort of a media bender in that you actually bought a book to get the game. Which is kind of different. And this, again, is going to be another different kind of entertaining delivery type thing. So
okay.
Looking forward to that.
I'll leave it there, but it's so far I think it's going to be an awful lot of fun.
Excellent. Cool. Who else has got a project update? Now, when we get into our little tech segment, that'll be a different segment. But as far as acquisitions or project updates, anybody else got anything going on?
I sort of have one, but yeah. Last week, Joel, I can't pronounce his Herbig. I don't want to butcher his name, but he offered a bunch of T-shirts that he had when he was a former employee at Microware, and also T-shirts that he had bought from CoCoFest from years gone by.
Okay.
And he had offered them for, if you paid the shipping, he would ship them to you. But I had said, well, this would be a great item to donate to CoCoFest. So he shipped all of them to me. I didn't realize how many shirts that he has. There's a lot of them. And we're talking about ones from back in the 90s and a couple from 2000 CoCoFest. So I'll try, I'm still trying to sort through them, and I'll take pictures of all of them and share them because these are like really good items that would be good for the auction.
Oh, neat.
For CoCoFest.
Neat. Well, thanks for doing that. Yeah, I remember seeing some of those pictures. That's cool. Jim Gary's mentioning the 10-liner basic programming contest that's going on right now. Anybody else working on that are going to come up with an entry for that?
Alan? Maybe.
Yeah, that
there was
really
a specific category. Yeah, there was a category in there that was mentioned on Facebook, which is what got me interested. There's kind of an anything goes category, which can be whatever you want as long as it can be typed in to 10 lines of basic, which started me down a rabbit hole to see how much assembly code could be loaded in data statements. So it'd be interesting to see what could be done there, and then talk to Simon or something and see if we could have some little micro demo that could actually get some attention.
And that would be neat. Yeah,
get a hard count of the number of bytes you can get in there.
Yeah. James Jones says, I don't have a project as such, but I did get a CoCo on a chip this past Monday. It's an amazing device. Says Roger Taylor does very good work indeed, which I think we can all agree.
He's a genius.
Yes. Yeah.
There's been some new developments with it the last week or so with how it interfaces with some of these other pieces of hardware that are built into it.
Like talking to the Wi-Fi chip? Or talking to the SD card directly?
Yeah, so all these images he's doing are him telnetting from that little CoCo on a chip. And the good news about that is we're going to be able to have the same module hooked up to a physical color computer. So I'm hoping to be showing that off at the CoCoFest for anybody that's interested. And it looks like somebody could just put one together if they've got a serial port available and a cable. It looks like you could build one for like $15.
Wow.
Nice.
So we'll have two good ANSI viewing terminal programs in, because I think he had his own he made that he never released before. And then there's Twilight Terminal by Stockmaster too, that both can handle the full color ANSI graphics.
Yeah, here let me update on something that we talked about a year ago when these CoCo Talks were getting started. At that time, I was showing off a prototype for basically the sound chip people were using, and I was going to plug it up through a serial port. So you could just send bytes to it from the Bitbanger printer port on a color computer and make it just turn on a tone or play a little musical riff or whatever. So this is the prototype. It's got a serial port and a little Arduino-type computer under this glob of wires. The wires are actually all going to the little tiny sound chip that's on it, and that's the sound chip that's in the upcoming game cartridges that John Linville's working on. Well, things have gotten a lot cheaper since then. The Wi-Fi chip that is being used in everything. I've got a very dirt cheap 3D printer behind me, and it has one of these little Wi-Fi chips on it, but you can also run code on it. So it's got a little color display and all the Wi-Fi and everything. That's all running off of the Wi-Fi chip. It has memory. It has flash storage for programs. So they're like a few dollars. They're like $2. They're cheaper than an Arduino,
So I was thinking that maybe what I'll do is save some money, and instead of have my serial sound device based on an Arduino, I'll use a cheaper part, so you'll have sound and Wi-Fi and maybe Bluetooth too if you want it, since it's actually cheaper to do it that way now. And that could have been done a year ago. I just didn't understand what these chips could do.
This is where you say, cool.
Yeah, whoever's crunching on the food there, please mute your microphone. No, that is really cool. And so, I do remember we talked about this a while ago. Before we even started CoCoTALK, we did a little interview with you and John Strong about some projects that were in the works. And that's when we talked about Handy Andy and Dr. CoCo and how you were going to be making some music for them and how he had prototyped also a sound chip and things like that. So will we see any of this music or hear any of this music possibly by CoCoFest, even if it's not finalized, but maybe some demos?
Oh, yeah, I really think so. In fact, what's really fun about this is I can solder wires and I can make like a serial cable, but that's about the extent of my skills. But I can plug a little wire into another little wire with the pins on it. So this is going to be a project for somebody who wants to just wire it up. You'll be able to order, from Amazon, everything but the little sound chip, and just plug it into a little board, run a bunch of wires in the right little spot, and then hook it up to a color computer and have your own thing without even having to, fire up a soldering iron. And then, of course, the idea would be to have somebody produce it as a board where everything just plugs in all nice and neat, and we can put it in a little enclosure. But these parts are all off the shelf, and it's surprisingly simple to do. I was playing with this stuff the last couple of weeks, and I'm actually feeding things off of different chips now. But for $10-15, you'll be able to plug something up to the bitbanger port of a Color Computer 1, run Greg eTerm or some other program, and then telnet to a BBS or retrieve a file across the internet. It's pretty fun. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. And that kind of alleviates the need for drive wire. Not that drive wire is a bad thing, but if this is a simple solution that doesn't require complex configurations, that's all the better.
Well, and that's kind of the thing is, drive wire solves a different problem. It solves a problem of how do you load files without having a hard drive or a floppy drive hooked up. And, if you have a CoCo SDC, that's really cheap. Then that becomes your drive wire, but it's still easier, and there's a lot of other features of drive wire, the music and the internet and things like that. But my computer is across the room, and I don't run cables back and forth. We also have been finding out that there's a chip for a few dollars more that adds Bluetooth, so maybe it would be possible to make a transparent link, so you could just plug one of these things into the back of a color computer and talk Bluetooth to drive wire, so you don't have to actually run a cable across your room. So there's a lot of potential here. It's cheap. These are being used by projects everywhere. Tons of information online, and you can buy them from Amazon, or you can get them for just a few dollars if you're willing to wait a few weeks from China.
Right.
I like lazy.
That is cool.
I love lazy.
That is very, very cool.
Cool. Is there going to be native OS 9 support for the sound chip?
Yeah, it's already built in. It's called your T2 or your T1 port.
Because it's just serial.
It's just a serial driver, yeah. So the serial driver's ready.
Yeah. So what somebody would have to do is write a kernel extension that just traps that tone command and sends it out as a signal, and it won't let you do any more than what the tone command built into OS 9 does. But anything that use it could be made to use this, but most programs that use that don't understand that the tone's going to play in the background. So it doesn't really help us. It'd be doing the same thing, because the program would issue the system call, play this note for 3 seconds, and it would wait for 3 seconds. So it would take special software to understand you can go do other things now.
Yeah, actually, John Strong and I were talking about that last year at the fest, and we're trying to come up with some ways to maintain compatibility with the existing sound, so that if you have a Basic 9 game that's dependent on it pausing during a certain sound, or it plays too fast, that you'll be able to do that, or you'll be able to do it and tell it, no, in this case, I want it to go in the background. So if you had, say, something like Rescue and Fractalist or something like that requires a lot of CPU time drawing all the 3D graphics, you could tell it, no, you go send the sound off, I'm going to go right back to the graphics to speed the game up. So we're trying to come up with some system call ways to make it compatible both ways.
Okay. Sounds cool. But a sound option. It's funny, you were commenting, Alan, on you had caught up, I guess it was episode 30, that was community drama, and you were asking what was the drama about that week. And I'm trying to remember even. I remember one of the dramas was basically, this person's had a sound card, this person had a sound card, and now that we're posting them on Facebook, one person's getting offended by the other person. And I think that kind of maybe overinflated the the severity of what it needed to be, but it was the drama du jour that day on Facebook. And I think the other one that had happened too, right around the same time, was when I had suggested the forum, which is still out there for anybody who wants to use it, tandyforum.org, and was this kind of I felt I was a little bit, I want to say overwhelmed, but just, I don't know, there seemed to be a big, large negative backlash about somebody proposing a new resource and how it's going to be the end of the community and dividing the community and all these other things. And so those were the dramas that happened around that week of CoCoTALK, which was 14 weeks ago at this point.
It was clear listening to it that everybody in the conversation knew this, but 36 minutes in, nobody had actually said what you guys were talking about, so I was very confused. And then it became clear.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, I don't know that we've had. That was probably the first time we've had drama in 30 weeks of doing CoCoTALK, which was 6 months, and now it's been another. We haven't had that much drama. Are we overdue for for something?
Oh
no. Every now and then it happens.
How long before my Color Computer 3 can print a cup?
That's a nice looking mug. Hold that up again for a second, Ron. That is a great looking mug.
How long before the CoCo 3 can print a cup?
You could do that right now, Ron, because there is the friends of mine. They do the printing, and they have special type of paper that runs through an inkjet printer, and then it goes into a little thing that presses it against the cup and molds, and the ink comes off. So it's basically like a t-shirt transfer that bakes it onto the mug. So you could probably do that using CoCoMax and some type of color printer that it supports, although I don't know. It probably requires a special inkjet these days. Our dot matrices probably wouldn't work well with any of the new paper, I would imagine.
Well, I was thinking of an actual 3D printer thing.
3D printed mug.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean actually print the mug?
Yeah, wow, like the machine behind you. Have a Color Computer 3 run it.
Well, there's absolutely no reason why we couldn't, because it's just a text file. These printers just take a text file and then they work autonomously. But I think the CAD software we had back in the 80s was probably not as complex.
Gee.
Probably.
So that's pretty cool. That's the stuff coming up in the future,
3D print.
Stuff they could do.
Yeah, I saw a little meme on Facebook or something that says, Step 1, get 3D printer. Step 2, print 3D printer. Step 3, return 3D printer to store.
That's funny.
It's almost to the point where we can make the things that make the things,
Yeah. That's another Inception thing.
Yeah. That's cool.
I read a sci-fi story that was essentially about that very thing happening. 3D printers, devices making themselves, and if you didn't put a special something in there to prevent it from duplicating itself too many times, essentially it would destroy the universe. it would just keep going, absorbing all the elements of the universe, recreating itself until everything was gone. So we should look out for that.
Yes. Self-replicating things, right? So, what is Richard saying here in the chat that he can't say on the thing? You are totally becoming Jim Brain, where you're in the call, but you're trolling us in chat here, Richard. So Jim would be proud, right? So, I'm building a CoCo cup holder, plugs into the cartridge port, complete with blinky LEDs. We used to have a cup holder in our PC towers, right? You just ejected your CD-ROM tray and you could put a drink right there. So,
well, CoCo had CD-ROMs too, so that makes sense there.
Yeah, so he says I'm going to print $20 bills with the 3D printers. It could probably cost about $40 in materials to print the $20 bills.
And money well spent, too, I might add.
And they won't look that good when they're done.
But I'm losing my shirt here, but I'll make it up in volume. Oh, my Lord. We are going to jump the train here. We've already jumped the shark. We're about ready to jump the rails. Speaking of jump the rails, is anybody up for a drunken fest again tonight later on? A after dark CoCoTALK?
I won't be able to today. I've actually got to do some tech support this evening.
I have.
We'll include that nice jingle of the I.
John Linville says
Possibly.
use injection molding for the cup holders. All right. So he says if you use injection molding in your cup holders, you'll be much happier. The king of injection molding has arrived. So anybody else have any project updates? Or we're going to go on to feedback.
I was going to mention, there was a couple that I'd mentioned in the chat in Discord this morning. There was a couple of updates on some game stuff. Paul's actually here to talk about, I guess, some of the screenshots he put up on Facebook, and then also Glenn Hewlett's update to Defender.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about that briefly if you guys want.
Sure, go ahead, Paul.
Curtis has something, don't you?
I do.
Still? You did.
You said you had something for the tech segment.
Yeah, that's for the Ground's Garage thing. That's not for the general project thing.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Is that an update on OS 9 by any chance?
Pardon me?
Is that an update for OS 9 in the tech segment you're going to talk about?
Nope. No, it's a piece of hardware. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Oh, that's no problem. I wasn't planning on talking anyway, so no big deal. Yeah, I mean, I guess I put some tiles up there. I've been bouncing around different project ideas for a while. I'm actually kind of working on more than one at a time here.
You have a title for the game or anything yet, or?
I posted the tiles for it's got a really generic name. There's a little bit of a story behind it. There's a lot of comedy to what myself and my son do when we come up with game ideas. We like to add kind of like British humor to it, I would say, because it's kind of dry, like Monty Python is. But the name of the game is Buff Commando, and it's kind of a blend between Contra and Double Dragon series. If you guys remember.
You're breaking up on us a little bit.
He's used that word buff.
Maybe I'm just talking too loud.
Okay, you're back. All
right, cool. So the reason we went with Buff Commando is we're kind of trying to make fun of a little bit of the 80s action shows or whatever. We didn't want to give him a specific name. We kind of wanted him to be a little bit stupid. He's like a long-haired. He kind of looks like Rambo, I guess, a little bit. He's got long black hair. He's not really all that buff because 16 by 16 pixels. And there's really no story to the game. He just he's shooting people for no reason whatsoever.
Okay.
I mean, there's a bad guy or whatever, but there's not really any story behind it.
Las Vegas shooter or anything, right?
No, not like that. No. He's going against a bad guy who's trying to take over the world, but there's not any backstory of where they came from or any of that stuff. And we have 12 levels planned. We wanted to do 4 zones of 3 levels each. I wanted to try and make the game about, if you do a quick play, you're a master of it, 45 minutes in length. if you guys want to see some source material that I've been like kind of researching to base the game on,
Yes.
you can watch YouTube video playthroughs of Double Dragon 2, and also you can play online.
He's gone again.
We're losing you again there, Paul.
Am I gone?
You're back.
Nope, you're back.
That's weird. I don't know why that keeps cutting out. But you can play a version of a PC game that is inspiring this called Duke Nukem 2. You guys might be familiar with Duke Nukem.
Mm-hmm.
The first two were side scrollers. The second one I love a lot. It's a really fun game. And then also you can like watch YouTube videos of Double Dragon 2. So there's going to be some switching between like side scrolling to horizontal scrolling in both, and things like that. We got a lot of ambitious plans, and right now I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to execute all of them.
Okay.
Like the bricks. Bricks are nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had the tiles up on the screen while you were talking from your Facebook post.
Oh, cool. Simon and I have been talking about tile encoding. Nick has a really good segment of that on his Popstar Pilot blog, which is back up, which is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I want to try and make some pretty large levels, so having a single byte represent a different tile number, you know, that's going to take a lot of memory. So we're trying to see how we can compress that. And one idea that we came up with is we'll do, so like, I think it was 4 bytes, or no, it was 3 bytes would resemble like a 4 grid space vertical column, and so 6 bits would give you a tile ID number. So you have a possibility of 64 tiles, and then every 6 bits, that's a Y offset from, so like 0, 16, 32, and then what is the next, 48. So we're just trying to figure that stuff out right now. It's kind of complicated sometimes and gives me a headache, but it's a good time.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how I want to set the screen up too. If I want to do something like Popstar Pilot does with like you got the whole screen as kind of your play field, but there's like small sections on the top or bottom with stats. Or if I want to do the gameplay is actually like in a window with stuff on the side and the tops and the bottoms. So it's really a lot of decision making right now, as well as expressing some graphical ideas. So that's where I'm at.
Neat. Well, It looks cool. Look, your assets are looking good. Your characters, your backgrounds and everything. So, yeah.
I mentioned something on Facebook the other day about trying to get a dev team together, too. And, like, that's something I'd really like to do in the future for sure. Because we've all seen, like, what everybody's capable of individually. And I think if we did, like, a team of 6 to 8 to make a game, we'd have something really exceptional, because you got people who are talented in graphics and obviously programming and music and things like that.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it can be a little overwhelming as a single person trying to implement all of those, and especially like if you're not talented in any of the areas. So I just think it'd be cool. I mean, a lot of the best games that I've ever played, you know, you get the team and everything, and it's way better than you could do by yourself. So
yeah.
Just for thought, everybody. So
yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, because you got some people who are just good at optimizing the code. You get some people who are good at certain routines, and others that are good artistically or musically or audibly. So you could put together the dream team,
or even designing levels and designing the gameplay itself. I mean, some people that aren't programmers might have some good ideas to kick in too.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And like I excel obviously with graphics, and level design is something that I'm good at too, but programming takes me forever, but that's okay. I mean, I enjoy learning it, and I do enjoy doing it, but I just think that if we get a team, we could make something real kick-ass, and that'd be really cool. So that's it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Very,
and to be
very
honest,
cool.
some of the great CoCo games have been done by more than one person. Like you look at the Harry Lafnier and Timothy Purves, like Time Bandit and stuff. So It's not unprecedented.
I've never seen that game, actually. Time Bandit, you said?
Yeah, by Computer Shack / Mictron.
I've never seen that game before. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
It's a gooder.
So Richard had an idea for a game. I don't know if Richard, you want to share this one yourself?
Yeah, I think we should get some Apple zealots to kidnap Steve Bjork and Rick Adams and take them to the 13th floor of the Tandy Tower and make them develop MC10 games. And your mission is to go into the Tandy Towers and rescue them and to help them develop the CoCo 4. You know, something like that.
The deluxe CoCo.
The deluxe color computer. That sounds good. That sounds like a sequel to Gate Crashers, right? So,
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Ron, you want to do your segment next? Ron's Garage.
Just throw it up, and I'll just screen share a little bit.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Ron's Garage and a little tech segment here. Be right back, people. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Greetings, YouTubers. Atari Leaf here, and you're listening to CoCoTALK.
What's going on, everybody? Stevie Stroh, and I want to say thank you for continuing to watch and listen to CoCoTALK. We love doing this show. We think we put together a pretty good show for you, but this show could be better with your help. So if you would like to send a feedback, a comment, a suggestion, a show topic, or maybe even your own little segment or bumper, then send it to us via email to CoCoTalk@CoCoTalk.live. This show would be nothing without you. Love to hear from you. All right, everybody. We are back on CoCoTALK, and we are with the man, the myth, the legend. But we're here with Ron Delvaux and Ron's Garage, the best segment to hit the internet since the internet itself. So, on that note, take it away, Ron Delvaux.
Awesome music, isn't it?
That's awesome music, for sure, sir.
Hey, you can put that back up.
Oh, the internet?
Yeah, you had my Ron's Garage on there, didn't you?
I had that was you.
No.
Well, that's you, but I could go over to Ron's Garage. I can switch over to the internet.
Yeah, let's do that, and then I won't have to screen share.
Okay.
And then go down to the WeFax thing and play that WeFax thing. That's pretty cool. Have you guys ever played with WeFax much? The WeatherFax
Once
program?
way back in the day, back in the mid-'80s, but...
Yeah, show it in action on.
I love this picture here, by the way. The picture you did scanning the program pack.
That is Math cool. Bingo, by the way. I did figure.
Is
that
it?
Yeah.
It looks like all the icons on my desktop.
Yeah, that looks really neat.
That came out cool.
Yeah. All right, let's get out of there. All right, so we're looking for the WeFax posting. Here's your pictures of Rainbow Fest '84. Is this it here?
Yep, that's it right there.
Oops, let's make it...
It's loud. The idea is to tune that within the 2 bars.
Okay.
Once you have it tuned in, you hear the clicking. Click, click.
Yeah, I see the pictures.
Yeah. You have to have a lot of patience because it takes a while. That thing comes all the way in, line by line.
Yeah.
Building a screen. And it's it's the kind of thing where you let it go for a while and you go have a sandwich, or a bathroom, whatever, and you come back and a whole page comes in, and then it kind of jumps, and then you see all the there's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 6 pages that makes up the whole view, even though you're anyway.
There's the radio that you're getting it from.
Radio.
Wow.
Yeah, its reception is horrible because all the computers around makes RF noise everywhere.
So if we fast forward through here, what are we going to see here?
So basically,
We got even more.
Well, actually, you could stop it, and then you just scroll down to the successful two.
Okay.
There's actually two screens that are results of.
Okay, so
it.
from here's one of your pictures that you downloaded. Okay, so this is actually like a weather map, right?
Yeah, you can actually read what it says. You just turn sideways a little bit, but
Pacific.
They're really cool.
I can't. What does it say?
That's Maine and New York, area on the left, and then the Great Lakes on the right. It's just one of the small frames of picture you can download. It's really cool. It's really neat stuff. Sometimes you can get actual picture of the Earth, a satellite view.
Ah, neat.
And you can see the lines of states and stuff.
So it's like
anyways,
Google Earth for the CoCo.
Right, now you can scroll up a little. And that there is a guitar. You can scroll down if you want. That's I found a program called Guitar Chord Course, which is really cool. I showed it to my son. He plays guitar, and he goes, "Does it play the chords?" I go, "No, it does not. But it does the chord. It does flats and sharps. It shows you how to put your fingers on the frets."
Okay, so it's kind of showing you some tablature
here. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is.
It has bar chord and just the finger chord. I play very little guitar. I used to play when I was 18.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's a cool little program. It was on Hot Cocoa, I think.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna copy and paste a link to Ron's Garage into the live chat right now. So if anybody's not already following Ron's Garage on Facebook, you always got a lot of good stuff in here. The WeFax, which we've seen, there were some really good pictures you posted here from CoCo Fest. There's Steve Bjork himself right there, right?
Yep. That's from the last CoCoTALK. I showed them real quick.
Yeah.
There he is in his prime. Dark hair.
Oh, we were asking the question, who is this guy looking the other way, and we didn't know? Or did we have somebody had a theory on who the guy in the hat was, if I recall? So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then there's Lonnie at the table. And there's Steve again. Yeah. Lonnie and
Dale Puckett on the left.
Dale Puckett, yeah.
Okay, Steve's here talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of good pictures on the Ron's Garage Facebook group, so make sure you check that out.
Well, so I took pictures of computers and posted them. That's using Roger Taylor's The Projector. It's an awesome program, and it doesn't matter what size your pictures are, which is cool, unlike the high color one that you guys were telling me about. But, you look at that, it looks like a photograph almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
And that's on a CoCo 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roger Taylor, the guy who does CoCo on the Chip, wrote a program called The Projector he sold years back at the CoCo Fest, and it views a whole ton of different formats.
Yeah.
That's neat.
GIFs and BMPs and everything else. So.
Yeah, so I take a WinImage tool, and first I have to take a photograph that I like and shrink it down. There's my dog. And when I shrink it down to the size I like, then I'm able to import it into a DSK image and then put it up on my chip, put it on the CoCo, and show it. It's a little bit of work, but I want to at least have. I enjoy doing stuff like this. This is what I enjoy. I don't do programming or anything, but I love to do stuff that you wouldn't think you could do. For years, when we had the CoCo, it was always blocky graphics, stick figures and stuff like that. And then to actually see a picture that, looks like a picture is just kind of amazing to me. I enjoy it.
No, I agree. Hey.
So I also have been drawing and putting stuff up on whatever I show a picture or whatever on Ron's Garage. I usually put the file up in the file section. So you guys can download it and play with the pictures and do what you want with them, whatever.
Yeah, that's neat. Very cool. Simon's just joined us. Hey, welcome to the program, Simon.
I'm probably way off the dog.
All right. Very cool. Does that conclude?
Do you want me to throw in my little hardware segment too, or?
Yeah. Do it. Jump in.
Okay.
What you got?
So this is the manual, which will kind of identify what it is.
Eliminator high-speed CoCo hard drive kit instructions from Frank Hogg Laboratories.
Yep, designed by Bruce Eisted, a fellow Canadian from Alberta.
Hey.
So this was the hardware card. It was called the Eliminator because it was, for an OS9 user, it's supposed to eliminate the need for multi-pack because it came with a ton of hardware built into it. So this is the actual thing here. So it's got ports on the sides, both sides of the cartridge. It's actually a metal case. So on like this side here, you've got some jumpers, which is a small bank there, and that's for setting stuff like addresses for serial ports and parallel ports, whether you want the auto boot ROM turned on or off, etc. Also the parallel port for the printer. Standard connector here goes to a WD-1002-05 controller, which can control up to 3 hard drives and 4 floppy drives, all in no halt. And it had a little daughter board optional extra. You could actually do high density floppy drives too, just to interest David Ladd in it.
Nice.
And then it had on this side 2 serial ports. Now it used a double header connector, so it had 1 or 2 little cables that came off to a standard RS-232 connector because he wanted to save the space. But it's basically 2 38.4 kilobaud serial ports that came on it too. It also featured an auto boot ROM chip and a real-time clock. And I've actually taken the screws out so I can kind of show you the inside.
So when you plug it into the CoCo, does it actually dim the lights?
Nope. That's actually pretty low power, but we actually at work ran this in the multi-pack because this wasn't enough ports for us. But for a normal person, that would have been fine. But this is what Bill and I ran our ticketing
on there?
stuff. The Eliminator multifunction board, distributed by FHL, made in Canada by Mattis, which I believe is a company Bruce Eisted worked for at the time. And on the top it says it's 1989. This is the version 2.1 version of the board. There was a couple of revisions that came out, but
is this something you had or imported just recently?
No, we ran our work off this for over 10 years. Like we ran 8 terminals and 3 printers simultaneously off one CoCo.
Wow!
And this was the main hub of it. This is where our 2 hard drives and our no-halt floppy drives were running off of this one card.
So what did that run back in the day?
Pardon me?
What did that run back in the day?
Well, Frank sold it as a separate board, and I think it was 129, if I remember correctly. And then he also sold it in kits where you get the hard drives and the power supplies and hard drive cases and stuff too, or floppies or whatever else. So you could do, whichever way you wanted to buy it. If you had your own hard drives you want to supply, you could. But it would control up to 4 1.44 meg floppy drives at once and 320 meg hard drives at once. Plus 2 serial ports, plus a parallel port, plus a real-time clock. Plus the auto boot ROM, you could tell it to boot off of any one of the 7 devices you had hooked up. So any floppy, any hard drive, you just set the jumper and it would boot off that. And then they
was
also
there a front end program written for it?
Well, it's meant for OS9. I mean, it wasn't RS-DOS compatible. You did have the option to kick back into BASIC, but there was no disk BASIC ROM because it was quite incompatible hardware as far as disk BASIC was concerned. But OS9 being a driver modeled operating system, you just substituted hard drive drivers and clock drivers and floppy drivers and serial port drivers and parallel port drivers.
So it's transparent.
Yeah, once you had it running up and running in OS9, you didn't know any different from running a Burke and Burke or running a Disto or whatever else.
And once you manually reconfigure the entire operating system, it's completely plug and play.
Actually, the funny thing is, you included utilities specifically to make that easy. So, utility stuff, you just tell it, replace this, and away it went.
OS9 for the win!
Yeah, it's a beautiful system, and if you did not want a multi-pack cluttering up your desk, but you wanted hard drives and floppies and serial ports, like real serial ports, and these are the 6552 serial ports that we've just talked about in Discord. These do not have the bugs the 6551 had. This was a complete fixed hardware flow control, worked perfectly fine. And I know when we were doing tests, I think we had the driver running without any major hacks to it. I think we were sustaining about 23 or 24 kilobits per second. So we were past the 19.2 already that the RS-232 pack normally supplied. And there were some optional things we were planning on doing it to it later. We never got to actually speed it up even more than that.
Oh yeah,
there's an interesting site to join.
A new Facebook group dedicated to the 6847 VDG. Is this going to divide the community? I wonder. So
don't stop, man.
All the CoCo users.
Yeah. So Curtis, because I have the Facebook group open, the CoCo group, I happen to notice now that episode 32 of the CoCo Crew podcast has now been published. And there's an interview with L. Curtis Boyle on the latest episode of CoCo Crew. So congratulations, sir.
Yep, it was a fun interview.
Yeah. So
I didn't diss you too much. So.
I'm gonna have to fast forward to the good part now just to get to that. So,
we'll see how much they cut out.
Is that now Sir L. Curtis Boyle?
Sir,
Is that how it works?
Yeah. Sir Curtis Boyle.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Very cool. So that's a neat product. And that you said that sold for about $129 when it was new?
Yeah.
That's not bad if you think about it. It's a floppy controller, a hard drive controller, no halt, real-time clock.
1980.
Serial.
1980.
2 serial ports, parallel port. Yeah.
Yeah.
1980s money was a lot more money than you're thinking, though.
But for that time period, I mean, it
that's
did
cheap
a lot.
for everything you got.
For everything you got.
To get the equivalent, you had to buy 2 RS-232 packs.
Yeah.
And Disto Super Controller 2, and a hard drive like a Burke and Burke all at the same time. And you'd have to buy a multi-pack to fit them all in the slots to run them all. Whereas this just took the one slot and you were up and running. You could run a 2-terminal system with a printer.
It's great.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of the Sir, we just call him Duchess.
Thanks, Jim.
Anytime.
He's the Duke of Boyle.
The Duke of Boyle. Yeah.
There's a Boyle Castle in Ireland that actually my family going way back apparently still has connections with or owns or something. But
really? Yeah.
You just owe money on it, probably.
Yeah.
I know. I tried to go see it, and they said, "Well, you're Canadian, so we're not letting you in." So.
Wow.
Hey, Simon.
Yeah, what's up, Simon?
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. I'm on with Jack Jones today.
Well, welcome, Jack Jones.
Jack Jones. That's a UK slang for on my own.
Okay. You want me to pull up the video of your latest demo?
You can do that, but it's only something in progress.
Okay.
He's looking like the Marlboro Man here.
Yeah, right?
I am the Marlboro Man. I'm the guy from X-Files.
There you go.
Yeah, the smoking man, right?
Yeah.
Let's start the whole video over again. Well, it's going to loop in a second, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's play it again. Here's Simon's latest little demo here. The musical candy cane in space.
Candy Zix.
It's far from done.
And this is 3 voice music, if I remember correctly, correct?
It's free, but it could be 4. It's free, but it could be 4.
Mo, Larry, and Curly.
And the CPUs did everything because you see the red transition into white.
Mm-hmm.
That's palette shifts. But the other stuff is being plotted real time. And it's 160 pixels wide.
Okay.
That's been plotted real time. And I think you might, I don't know if all of you know who this is, but I think Curtis might know who this is. We got Remy back in the loop.
Oh, really?
Yes, we dug Remy out of the archives, right, to make this demo for the CoCo 3.
Cool, because that 3D texture mapping demo he did is amazing, and plus he had that Mario demo, if I remember, too.
Exactly, and me and the guys who are doing this CoCo 3 demo dug him out of the attic.
Neat.
So is he coming back like fully, or is he just helping you with this and then kind of disappearing again?
He's helping with this, but I'm gonna try to like push him a little bit, you know. So, but he's helping with this right now. So Remy's in the loop.
Neat.
That's cool.
And I think Nick Marentes will approve of that as well.
Do we have your approval, Nick?
Oh, yes, I was just working on something else. No, that'd be great. Remy's very talented as well, so it'd be good to see him back.
So we got him back in the loop for this demo.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Has he got a
Did you want to show? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just wondering, has he got a CoCo at the moment still, or?
Yes, he's got a CoCo 3 128K.
Oh, 128.
Yeah, he's still got the 128, and he's tested because I passed this backwards and forwards with him. We've been working on this together, and there's a little bit of sock master in the mix. It's just kind of like, okay, you can do that, you can do that, you can do that. But both me, Remy, and Sock are in this together, and I've also got a whole crew together to do graphics and sounds. So it's a total demo crew.
Cool. Nice.
Finally, I'm not on my own.
Yeah.
CoCo, except right now you are.
So the goal is to create demos or to create games, or?
Well, for now it's a demo. It's just like push the limits. But taking what we make out of pushing limits, we can put that into any situation we want to.
Yeah, because Remy had a couple of engines that actually were kind of designed for games that were pretty impressive. So,
yeah,
the 3D engines he had were very good.
Good. Well, I'm on par with Remy right now, so we can see what we can work out.
Good deal. The future looks bright.
And Steve, I saw you had a brief pull up there of Hugo Dufort's GUI that he's doing for the CoCo 3.
Yeah, I gotta find it again on the Facebook
in your list
page.
of stuff, or
well,
that's pretty cool looking too.
Yeah, it is. Let me switch over to that. So yeah, this is up on the Facebook page right now. But Hugo has been he's been talking about this for a little while now. Now I don't know if what game. So right now he's working on a library, which I guess will help future games. And I don't know if this is the game in particular, but I do recall. So hopefully I'm not divulging any trade secrets here. But a while ago when he was on the air with us, he did mention he wanted to redo one of his favorite games, which was Wildcatting. And he wanted to do a modern version of Wildcatting, which was a very cool cartridge game from the image producers. So I don't know if this is going to factor into that game or if this is just libraries he has to build for any game. But we'll go ahead and play the video here and see what it looks like. But the problem with making software in the CoCo is you pretty much, unless you're doing it in OS 9, you have to make everything yourself. So all these routines for windowing and fonts and all this kind of stuff, you've got to create those libraries. And this is what this is a library that Hugo's working on right now. So we'll go ahead and play that. We've got title bars, we've got 3D buttons, and right now he says this is like in debug mode. So the red lines you see over this is for his benefit to know that his code is doing what he wants it to do. But he's got buttons and check boxes and radio boxes.
And he said this is not optimized at all at this point. It's just to get it working first.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that remind you of what we were showing in OS 9 or Nitrous 9?
Yeah, well, he's basically doing the same type of a low-level library, except this will work for RSTOS, and then you can start using the hardware tricks that are a bit harder to do under Nitrous 9, like horizontal scrolling and stuff.
Yeah, like a drop-down list. It's pretty cool. And it's basically.
And I think he said he's going to release this to the public. Is he? I can't remember.
Hey,
recall that was the case.
You gotta love how Facebook.
Somebody hijacked it.
Yes. Yes. No, that's pretty neat. Here's Jason. Now he's gone public with his douche mug. So.
He's
CoCo
a brave
Crew
douche,
podcast.
still douche.
CoCo Crew podcast is now available for your listening pleasure. So make sure everybody goes there. CoCoCrew.org.
By the way, on the CoCo Crew podcast, the fact that I was interviewed, I should mention this was not going to go to my head, mainly because I found out I was the second stringer. I was the person that replaced the person who couldn't make it.
Well, listen.
It's good to be number 2.
none of us can go to our head because David Ladd was interviewed before us all. So we are but shadows in the wake of David Ladd.
Sir David Ladd.
Sir David Ladd. Yes. So, good stuff. So yeah, that would definitely be cool to see. It's great to see people working on stuff and see new things coming out for the CoCo. I do want to get back to just a little bit of feedback that we didn't do at the top of the show. So I'm going to take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll look at some feedback. So we'll be right back, people.
Hey everybody, this is Bill Noble, co-author of Nitrous 9. You are listening to CoCoTALK Live, the leading live CoCoTALK show.
Every day, a color computer is abandoned or abused. They live in the dark recesses of garages, basements, storage sheds, barns, and attics, waiting for someone to help. Hi, I'm Helen Bleeding Heart. Please say you'll be the answer for CoCo suffering the effects of extreme temperature, overexposure to ultraviolet light, and conditions unfit for electronics. These CoCos need your help. Please call 888-6883 or go online and join the Color Computer Preservation Society with a monthly gift right now. For just $18 a month, you can rescue CoCos from their abusive environments, provide repair of damaged parts, administer retro bright treatments, and most of all, provide love. Call or sign up online in the next 30 minutes and we'll send you a photo of a CoCo being lovingly reconditioned by the CCPS. And you'll receive this beautiful tote bag that declares, I saved a CoCo. Yours for your generous perpetual monthly gift. This is your chance to say, I won't sit by while a CoCo is wasting away. Please, won't you call or go online right now?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. You know, gameplay.
To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you.
All right, well, we are back, and first thing I want to do is just kind of look at our podcast numbers, because the podcast is the audio version of the show. So, you know, the show is available first and foremost as a live program that most of you are watching right now live. But for those of you who aren't unable to watch it or just need to consume it a different way or enjoy consuming it a different way, like in your car and so forth, we've got the podcast version. And we are continuing to break some milestones where we now have exceeded 4,500 downloads. So I think that's pretty good. We're getting close to 5,000, which is a nice number. I'm missing something right now. What am I missing out here in the sidebar?
CoCoMan's making faces.
Okay. Well, nobody else is seeing those faces right now. Okay. So that is kind of cool. But we also got a little bit of feedback from James, who I think is still in the live chat. But last week's show about the CMOC compiler, we got a little bit of feedback from James. I think he responded on Facebook too. But the first thing he mentioned, because we were teasing the segment, why did Tandy do that? He had a suggestion here. Hopefully you'll devote a segment, and why did they violate ASCII? So, you know, the way the CoCo did their characters is not the standard way of doing things as far as some of the symbols and everything. I think the alphabet was the same, right? Isn't that, you know, characters, you know, 65 for letter A and things like that? I think that part's standard.
Yeah.
But I think they strayed from there.
Yeah.
And probably had to fit in with what you could do with the VDG. And then he had some nice feedback on the CMOC stuff here. And he said, Microware C compiler almost exactly conforms to the language as described by the KNR first edition. K&R second edition is what described the ANSI 1989 standard C that I think is what CMOC is doing now. So the C preprocessor's purpose is to deal with the preprocessor directives and macro definitions and invocations. So I think this is just maybe adding on to some of the discussions that was happening. A separate part of the compiler tries to make sense of the source code itself. It's called the parser. It typically converts the source code to an internal form. Said some compilers use expression trees or use tuples. Am I saying that right? Tuples or tuples?
I think it's tuples. I'm not
tuples,
even sure.
Which is sort of like a abstract 3-operand assembly language, which can then optimize and use the generation stuff. So there's some good feedback here. K&R, which was the original C first edition, let one leave out the function and return type. And the first edition version is what the ANSI ISO C is called the unusual arithmetic promotions. Requires conversions of float to double for arithmetic operations. Of course, I'm reading things I have no idea what I'm reading here. This is a language that's foreign to me. As well as widening it to an integer. Am I saying that right? So I don't know if somebody else wants to read this off better than me. So ANSI and ISO does much of the same thing to define the meaning, semantics of arithmetic expressions, but then has the as-if rule that says you can do whatever you bleep and want to as long as you get the same answer you'd get if you did the thing the official way. So he says, I implemented that in Microware's 68XXX C compiler before Ultra C and made it into Ultra C, Microware's ANSI conformant C compiler. I don't know how easy it'd be to do that for targeting to 6809. So there's some feedback there on C and some of the different versions of C, all of which is pretty much over my head. But James, thanks for the feedback. And hopefully that made sense to some people smarter than me.
It's a large collection of big words.
No, James is a very, very smart guy, and he worked on the compiler teams, and he was probably, out of the people that are active in the CoCo community with OS9, he's probably one of the longest running people as far as that goes.
Right. But I think that was a great segment, hearing about CMOC, because we've heard it a little bit on the podcast, because I'm not familiar with C, to hear people talk about it to a degree. I think that whole programming discussion got to be pretty good because people were talking, I don't know if it was that episode or previous episode, we were getting into Java and, the love-hate relationship people have with Java. So I think we are...
They don't know what CMOC stands for, like, C for the mother of computers, or...
C is the mother of compilers or languages or computers. Yeah. What does CMOC stand for? We'd have to ask Pierre, right?
Yeah. Don't go there. But at the end of the day, if you get the result you want, if you use one or other method, it's what you want. So correctness doesn't come into the picture.
Right.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to optimize.
Well, here's...
Yes.
Here's the question of the day. Does C support self-modifying code?
Self-mod for the win.
Yeah, so James is still with us.
Go ask Nick about self-mod. Go ask Paul Thayer about self-mod.
I just want to say, too, for those of you who are watching us live, you're definitely welcome to join us on Skype, even if you don't have a camera. If you want to join the conversation, you're welcome to. So I'll throw out that address again. So it's CoCoTALK at CoCoTALK.live is the email address if you want to search for that as a Skype contact and join us rather than typing to us. You're always welcome to. So thanks for the feedback. It's nice to know that we have some intelligent people on the program and some intelligent people watching it. I'm neither of those. So, but it's good. It's good. All right, guys, what else we need to talk about?
Crickets?
I remember.
There we go. The crickets.
There's stuff in Discord we were talking about? I can't remember now.
I don't know. We are going on...
I think we've covered quite a lot today.
Yeah, we have covered quite a lot. We are going on about 2.5 hours, so maybe we save some, and maybe we'll decide offline if we want to do an after dark, or if we want to decide now, maybe we will do an after dark tonight, like around 9 o'clock or something like that. Anybody up for that?
Sure.
Like I said, I won't be able to attend. I've got technical support to do for my mom tonight. So
okay.
Which usually involves supper and stuff.
I can be there, but I'll be off and on because I'm installing the client PC.
Okay, not a problem. So we will tentatively plan on around 9 p.m. tonight. We'll do a CoCoTALK After Dark live on the CoCoTALK Facebook group. So make sure you follow us over there on the Facebook page, and I will put that in the link as well. So that is basically Facebook.com, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right? So it's Facebook.com.
I did want to use Alan's jingle.
We could do that.
There was one other thing I wanted to have on the show today, if you don't mind, and that's to show Glenn Hewlett's progress on Defender.
Ah, yes.
Ooh, yeah.
Let's go back to that. Let me go back to the group. I'm going to search for that, and we're going to find it. And this is why...
Because that's pretty impressive.
It is beyond impressive, so... and this is trying to search on... Is Glenn 1N, right?
I believe so.
Here we go. All right, so I found the post. Let me switch over the screen. Jason making his faces again. Okay. So here we have...
I'm just coming in for a really close look.
Yes. Okay. So here it is. Now, do these link to a video? Or is it just a blog post?
No, there's actually a video.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do real quick...
The highlighted video on YouTube there.
Yes, I see it. I'm going to post that link. Okay, so I'm posting a link to Glenn's blog real quick for those of you who are watching it. And now we're going to do it live. We're going to show the video here of the attract screens of what he's doing so far. Defender. Nice loading screen here.
Is this like defense?
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Ooh, there's the sounds. There's the loading screen. This is exactly how the arcade machines boot up, because I've done this in MAME. Williams Electronics presents. Look at that. Ooh, it kind of implodes in. That looks really good, that attract screen there. And the color cycling's looking good.
It's pretty well exact the same as the arcade was. Sound and all.
But we're only getting 6-bit palettes versus 8-bit.
8, yeah.
And that was it. Oh, man. That was gorgeous. That was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. Glenn Hewlett.
Is this, what's the game going to be like? Is it? I never played it, so
Glenn Hewlett is. It's a very, very iconic side-scrolling space shooter. It's called Defender. You shoot bad guys. You pick up little people. You rescue the people. You land them on the ground. Very classic arcade game. It spawned another sequel that was called Stargate. There's a bunch of Defender clones on the CoCo. Curtis and I did a showcase on a bunch of Defender clones. Very, very popular game. And the interesting thing about Defender is it actually used a 6809 processor. So the transcoding now is going to require less of a language conversion and more of hardware to software emulation conversions, I would imagine.
Yeah, sprites and sound chips and stuff is what he's going to emulate, but basically the code's the same.
Yeah, almost, not quite, because they're the Blitter.
Right.
Williams.
Yeah, well, that's why he's got to emulate the Blitter and hardware and emulate the sound chip, kind of like Sock did with Donkey Kong, where he had to emulate those chips too.
Yeah, exactly. So, but he's doing a very, very good job.
Yeah. So this is now the third arcade game. He brought us Space Invaders, Pac-Man, and now Defender. These are all classic, iconic games. You know, if you had like a top 10...
And we're getting the full arcade port. This is like MAME for the CoCo just about at this point.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks, Glenn. We've had Glenn on in the past. Hopefully we'll have Glenn on again as we have some more to show off there. Good stuff. All right, so I guess we'll go around the room and we'll wrap everything up if anybody has anything they want to plug. And if not, hopefully tonight we'll continue the fun and frolicking on CoCoTALK After Dark. Drinking is not mandatory but highly encouraged for CoCoTALK After Dark. And we won't talk about it.
As it after dark.
Well, it depends on what country you're in. So for us, it will be. For you, it looks like it already is dark, Simon. So
yeah, it's 11:15.
Yeah, so for you it'll be ass early. So CoCoTALK ass early in the morning. So.
Yeah, CoCoTALK breakfast edition.
Yeah,
got a drink for breakfast.
Tim Franklin says I just woke up.
In Australia, it'll be next Tuesday.
All right, so we're gonna go around the room. Mark Overholser, any parting thoughts? Anything you want to plug?
Oh, been fun like usual. It's amazing this show can go 3 hours with just a few ideas. But hey,
yeah,
I like being here, and it was all good.
It was good. Nice shirt you're wearing there too, by the way.
Thank you.
And
I got it at 8bit256.com.
Excellent. And we have Ron saying, "Show us your Tandy color computer." I like the other phrase that says, "Show us your something else that starts with T's," but.
Jeez. You're not suggesting a wet cocoa contest, are you?
Show us your Tandy color.
No, not the wet cocoa.
That might be for the
After Dark early.
That might be the After Dark show, right? So
it's just a call to show your machine up.
Yes, so
show. Even just show what you're doing during the day. If you're if you put up. Even if you do BBS, playing around with a BBS, look at there.
There's a topless CoCo that Jason just held up. So, Alan Huffman, parting thoughts? Anything you want to plug before we wrap up this train wreck?
No, I'm just hoping that maybe in the next week or so I'll have something to show you with the little experimental plug-in module for internet on the CoCo.
Excellent. Is that a Jolt Cola you're drinking there?
Yes.
It is always a Jolt Cola. As long as Dollar General stocks them, I will be buying them.
That's right. So this episode of CoCoTALK has been sponsored by Jolt Cola. Paul Thayer, thanks for showing us a little sneak peek at your program. Anything you want to plug or parting thoughts before we go?
No, sir. Had a good time. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. Nick Marentes, good day.
G'day, and ease of use.
Oh, you should plug your websites back up. What's your new domain name for your website, Nick?
Well, that's easy now. It's www.nickmarentes with all one word .com.
You didn't go
because
to
easeofuse.com was taken.
Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste that. So is it Nick Marentes or is it Nick Marentes? Have I been saying your name wrong all these years?
Marentes, Marentes.
Nick Marentes. So nickmarentes.com is back online. Well, that's a new domain name, so you don't have to type in like half the
domain name. The website's of the same.
The website's up there. You can look at all Nick's previous offerings as well as order Popstar Pilot.
Insanity on show.
Yeah. And look at the updates for Gunstar. Funstar to be released on ROM cartridge.
On the weekend.
Yes.
No manual required.
Yes. And Curtis Boyle, we can look forward to an interview with Curtis Boyle on the CoCo Crew podcast.
I don't know if you want to call it looking forward to, but okay. Yeah, so I guess one update that Grant mentioned in the chat here, too, that I should mention is that we actually have officially gotten a table at CoCo Fest for the Ease of Use project. So we'll be demoing that and answering any questions anybody has. We might even see if we can sneak a little speech or something on it if there's enough interest to warrant it. Nice. I'm still working on bits of it. I'm getting busy with work. It's our traditional seasonal busy time for baseball, so I'm getting less and less time to fiddle. But Dave and I are also going to be doing a couple of patches, hopefully for the Level 1 Nitrous 9 for the Dragons and the CoCo 1 and 2s, and doing some 609 code for that too, because it hasn't really been a lot put in. So we're going to try to give a couple little bits there just to get people started and give them an excuse to, since they already have a socketed CPU, that they can actually put a 609 in and actually run it faster. So
neat. Very cool. CoCoMan, any parting silly faces or words of wisdom for us?
Silly faces would be good.
Freeze frame. That one right there.
He is the man. Looking smug. With that mug.
Is that a mug shot?
That's a mug shot. Look at that mug and look at that ceramic glass he's holding up next to that. So, yeah. Ho!
CoCoMan.org.
CoCoMan.org. And Simon Jonassen, the madman. Any parting thoughts?
Well, look at my shirt, right? This is composite.
Composite.
It bends, right? So
it's pretty heavy artifacting going on there.
If we put that into RGB, you've got the twisty candy bar.
All right, guys, we're going to end this episode 44 of CoCoTALK. This one was called
Tell me why did Tandy do that?
Why did Tandy do that? Well, if Tandy hadn't done what Tandy did, none of us would be here today talking about it. So we'll see you next week on CoCoTALK, everybody.
Or tonight.
Later all.
Oh, that's right. Tonight, CoCoTALK Live. CoCoTALK After Dark, 9 p.m. Eastern. Bye-bye.
Bring your flashlight.
Bring it on.
And a hose.
Thank you for watching CoCoTALK, the world's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things CoCoTALK, visit us on the web at CoCoTALK.live. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to CoCoTALK@CoCoTALK.live. If you love the color computer like we do, then visit imacoconut.com for all your color computer needs. Yeah, wait, I'm sorry, I completely forgot. I forgot to say goodbye to everybody in the live chat, so we got to go back and do that. Sorry about that, guys. So this is what happens when you do a live show, right? So in the live chat today, we had Norlander and James Jones and Tim Franklin and Nick Marotta was here. And Ken Make It was here. Mark Overholser, CoCoMan, Nick Marotta, James Jones, Mark Overholser, Jim Gary was in the live chat. Solstice was in the live chat. He had to leave a little while ago. Fiscap was here. Paul Fiscap. Grant Leighty trolling us in the live chat. James Jones, Fiscap, Nick, Solstice, Nick, James, Grant. Okay, have I gotten everybody? Mark Overholser, CoCoMan, Mark, Nick, James, Mark. I think we're doing good. Richard Lorbieski was in the live chat doing some trolling. Curtis Boyle. Davey Mitchell was here. Hey, Davey, how are you? And Ken was here. And Richard. Tom C. was in the live chat. And Mark Overholser and Richard. A lot of Richards. John Linville was in the live chat. And so was CoCoMan and Grant and Richard. And yeah, a lot of live chatting going on here today. We're up to like 21 viewers. Alan Huffman was in the live chat. James Jones. Tim Franklin. I know I'm repeating myself, but I don't remember. And Nick Marotta and Tim Franklin. And that's cool. All right. So back.
You only have 8K.
Yes. So back to the outro. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Consider supporting the show with a purchase of merchandise from our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, then visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/OGStevieStro. CoCoTALK would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. Thanks go to Curtis Boyle, David Ladd, Mark Overholser, Grant Leighty, Bruce Moore, Rick Adams, Ron Delvaux, Richard Lorbieski, Jim Brain, Nick Marentes, Karen Anscombe, Simon Jonassen, Wayne Campbell, Steve Batson, Brian Joyce, John Strong, and Barry Nelson. Special thanks to Steve Bjork for production suggestions and Brian Joyce for our Best of 2017 episode. Please help support the CoCo community by visiting some of its contributors. The CoCo Crew podcast at CoCoCrew.org. Glenside Color Computer Club, host of CoCo Fest at GlensideCCC.com. Jim Brain and Retro Innovations at go4retro.com. Tandy Assembly at TandyAssembly.com. Cloud9 Technologies at cloud9tech.com. Boyson Technologies at BOYSONtech.com.
CoCoTALK After Dark.
David Ladd, Grant Leighty, Mark Overholser, Bill Noble, Karen Anscombe, Brendan Donahue, Ron Delvaux. And we are wrapping up Coco Talk episode 44. Thank you all. May the Schwartz be with you. And good night.
That's all, folks.